Hello everybody, welcome back to Tatum-TerrorTime. We're back to day 3. We started earlier. I told you guys I was going to do it, and I did it, so we're going to start where we left off earlier in the video. Just want to let you know, please like, subscribe. Again, thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello? Hello? I can't hear you. Hello?
It said it's the signal.
Okay, well, what? Because you hung up on me and I'm not really feeling this right now, so what? What do you got for me?
I can't help the service in and out.
Fine, whatever.
You were being all nice, caring, listening, everything. Then all of a sudden you started being hateful.
Yeah, because you got information I need for my son that everybody needs to get this boy back. Okay?
Okay, so now you're saying I got information, but then just a minute ago you told me I made it up and it was a figment of my imagination.
Okay, so it's on you to pick which one it is. It's not sort through. It's on me bullshit.
Beginning. Listen to me.
Yes. No. Let's start over. Let's get it in here, okay? Because if you keep going back this same path we've been on, I'm just going to keep getting more pissed off and more hurt and more worried about my son because you've told me 17 different stories now. Start over and tell me who the fuck has my boy, okay? Tell me a name. That's the beginning. I don't care about Saturday. I don't care about Sunday. I don't fucking truck on Monday. I don't care. Who has Gannon? That's what I care about. Who?
Then I want immunity.
What the fuck does that have to do with who has Gannon? I can't give you immunity. You call the police. You do what you got to do to get yourself protected from whatever you're worried about. I mean, it keeps... Anyways, I'm not dealing with that. Okay, the beginning is who has Gannon?
Did you even call the guy to ask him about to me, did you?
No, because I figured you'd call me back. I thought you was hanging up with me. Call me back. What is he? What can I? I'm not your lawyer.
You're my husband.
Right, and I'm telling you right now, you want immunity. You want this fucking immunity because there's no dude. It's all a fucking lie, Tisha. Prove me otherwise. Just like I told you with the rape, I'll get on my knees and beg for forgiveness if it's true. If it really happened, if there is this fucking guy out there, I'll on the media, I'll go out to the world and say I was wrong, my wife was right this whole time. But there's no fucking dude, Tisha. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Yeah, prove me wrong. Was this an accident? Did something happen? Did you accidentally hurt him? Did you give him too much medicine? What happened?
So what do you think happened then? Since you think everything I have to say is wrong, since I offered help, then what do you think happened?
I'm gonna tell you first of all, like I told you already, I was not home. That's the problem number one. Okay? Something bad happened and I wasn't there to take care of it. All right? So for the rest of my life, no matter what happens, I'm going to blame myself for this because I wasn't there, because I was trying to progress in my career, be successful and all these things. Okay? I just wasn't there. That's number one. That's the first thing that happened. Number two, I mean, you told me a lot of things that happened in like a 12, 13, 24-hour period. You talk about blood, you talk about Gannon's foot, you talk about the burns. All this happened in a short time, and they were all accidents. Nobody's to blame. Okay? Nobody. And you just panicked. Okay, that's what I think. I think all this stuff had, and then maybe, I don't know, maybe there was a big accident. Gannon took too much medicine, or Gannon hit his head, or Gannon's nose was bleeding, or I don't know. Okay, I'm sitting here trying to make all these theories up, but all these things are running through my head. He hit his head on the ground. He hit his head on the wall. You picked his fingers too much, and he was bleeding. Whatever, the truth did something, and it was an accident. And then I just feel like you got, because I wasn't there to keep it all together, you panicked. And then I don't even have a theory on the rest of it. Okay, that's what I think. I think there's absolutely no guy there, and I understand why that would be on your mind. I understand that. Okay, I'm not discounting that. I'm not making you feel bad if that's something you're trying to get through this, and you made that up. Okay, you've told nobody that but me. Okay, so if that's not. Okay, screw the police right now. This is me and you. Screw the freaking police. They're not listening anyways. You know that. They're looking all these places, and you know shouldn't be looking there. Okay, so they're not listening to you. I'm listening to you. I gave you up until the one point where you panicked, too much blood, Gannon hurt himself, and you didn't know how to handle it, and you didn't want to call me because you were scared I might be upset at you, and I understand that. I understand that you've got this, you want to do so good for the kids and provide for them and food and clothes, and you do a great job at all that stuff. Okay, you do a great job at all that stuff, and I tell you that all the time. And you really want me to feel like you're better than Landon, and I tell you all the time that you are. Okay, I feel like all that factors into this, that something bad happened accidentally. Nobody's fault. Accidents happen, and that's what we would have told Gannon. The candle or whatever it was. Accidents happen. We could get children though. Okay. I tell you that all the time. We can't replace our children. We can replace clothes and carpet and couches. Who gives a fuck about that stuff? And you know I've told you that. If we smash the TV, who cares about the TV? Okay? An accident happened here of some sort. You panicked and freaked out, and then I just need the rest of the story. I just need to know where Gannon is, okay? I just need to know what has happened with Gannon. Is he safe? Is he hurt? Is he alive? Is he somewhere? Okay? I don't want to hear no more about this dude unless you give me a name, okay? So I don't believe it until you give me concrete information. My theory is this. That accident happened. You panicked. Now tell me the rest.
I was there, Albert. I'll give you his name. I swear to you.
Give me his
name.
When
I tell you this part, this is why I want immunity.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay? The whole thing happened. The cops were there. Yada, yada, yada. All that was true. You keep saying I said all these stories. Is not what happened. I really was truly thought that Gannon was going out. I've been talking to somebody because he was asking me weird questions or whatever. This dude trying to get your bike, he followed me. So I get the Petco. That's why I was looking in and out the doors of Petco.
Oh, so so it wasn't about Gannon getting out. And I'm not talking junk. Okay.
You jump in there.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to understand.
He didn't get out because if someone was following me, I didn't want him to know someone was in the car.
Okay.
Yes, that's why.
Okay.
All I was trying to do was go get you a bike. Then I leave because I was going to go to this place to be looking at free to get a bike, and I realized that this dude was following us again. So I tried to make some turns around Palmer Lake area, in and out of that area up there, which is where they're searching because I'm sure they got my GPS, searching for nothing. And then to come up a little high.
And just so that I'm clear, Mr. Allen, that was exhibit 37, right?
37. That's
Okay,
right.
all right, go ahead.
Mr. Stauch, can you come back?
Mr. Stauch, I remind you, sir, that you're still under oath.
Mr. Stauch, in that call, you said to the defendant, you want immunity because it's a lie, there's no dude. And then you said, prove me wrong. Did she ever prove you wrong?
No, sir.
You made mention of Gannon did something, an accident, and you panicked. What were you trying to do by saying those things to the defendant?
Trying to, in a way, take the initial blame off of her that and confirm her story about an accident with the candle or whatever she had claimed from the night before or whatever, and give her a freedom to talk about what happened next in her mind.
Basically give her an out so that you could try to maybe get more information?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Towards the end of that phone call, the defendant made, again, mentions of some anonymous dude in the language that she used. Did she ever give you a name of who this dude was that she was referring to?
Not in this phone call, no, sir.
All right. Was that phone call consistent with her personality?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
During that phone call, did she ever change personalities or talk with any other odd voice inflections?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Judge, at this time, we're going to move on to People's 38, which is a call on February 14th at 12:17 p.m.
All right. Mr. Stauch, you can go ahead and step down. Thank you, sir.
And Judge, this call is about a little over 21 minutes.
All right.
Hello?
What happened?
Okay, I was talking away.
Okay.
Did you guys hear?
Something about you were at Petco and then you got in the truck and the guy was there or something?
No. I asked them to go get the footage from outside of Petco.
Okay.
Not just the footage inside Petco. That's the footage we need outside of Petco. Because the guy had followed us to Petco, and as I was pulling off to go to the Palmer Lake area, I was going to go look at the bike, somebody was laying down in the road acting like they were, I don't know, going to kill themselves or some crap. When I turned around and came back the other way, and this dude gets in the truck with us. I didn't have anything. No, he was so scared. He followed us all. He came with us all the way back to the house. Where's the footage showing people getting out of the car? Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay, who got out of the car?
I mean, I saw you and then I saw the shadow that somebody was talking about.
The side.
The only footage I seen is the one that you said the guy got paid for. That's the only one I saw.
Okay, so when you get there, he's still in your car at this time. We all get out. The guy was with us the whole time.
Okay.
The whole entire time. How did he want? He could take everything he wants. He could rob us. He could do whatever he fucking wanted. Have it all. There was a struggle. There was everything back and forth. Anna was asking, did I know his Uncle Matt? Because he was saying, whoever Uncle Matt was, you don't like Uncle Matt. Uncle Matt came in at. Well, she had something to do with it. Because I was freaking out how he would know someone by this name. I told you this.
Okay.
The guy was there when the police came. I didn't know where Gannon was at. I didn't know if he was hid. I didn't know anything. I just know I was terrified to say anything because he had the gun. And I was scared. What if he went up there and tried to go get help? What if he go get help and he's in here? There was nothing I could do to switch anything. My hands were tied that night. The girls were in the bedroom. My hands were tied to the little board cord that's on the back. My hands are tied there. Tied completely. Remember those same headphones I had on? I told you I was listening to music? Yeah, I had to do that, and that little bandana that was down there, that's where that couldn't see, couldn't get help. Harley and Lena were asleep. It was just terrifying. All I could hear was Gannon screaming. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know anything.
Okay, Tisha, can I ask you a question? Please?
What?
Why would you need immunity for that when the guy he's the perpetrator, not you? Why would you need immunity for this?
Because I didn't tell him.
Because you did, okay. Okay, I mean.
I don't know how bad he hurt Gannon. I don't know. There's no accident where I heard him. There's nothing like that. Immunity, because people keep saying that. No, because he was in Gannon's room. I just kept crying. He decided, you know, he is Mexican. He was mixed with black. God. 5'7", I gave him his name.
Okay, hold on. All right, so let me just bear with me here while I sort through this. Okay, so you have Petco, you pull out, and you're at the stoplight. Dude's laying in the middle of the road, or you're in the parking lot?
We drove up to look at the night towards Palmer Lake.
Oh, so the guy was at Palmer Lake laying in the middle of the road.
He followed us. I made a turn. I thought the turn was going to take me back to 25. Instead, it wraps you back around in a circle to come back the same direction up these hills.
Okay. All right, so, yeah, let's stop for a second because, all right, listen, I'm going to be straight up again because I'm getting frustrated again because this is even more bullshit than the original 17 stories, okay? I mean, no guy fucking jumps in your truck. The car is locked when you're driving unless you stop and open the doors. Anyway, I'm not going to pick it apart. It's bullshit, okay? Yes.
God.
Tisha. No, it's not why. I want you to tell me why you panicked. Why?
He's on trial. You can see this.
Why did you panic when the accident happened? When Gannon did whatever he did, I mean, he made a mistake. Whatever happened, why did you panic?
Panic when?
After Gannon was hurt, after he hurt himself, after he had an accident, after he banged his head or something, why did you panic? So, wait, well, you know what? So back to this Palmer, I'm all over the place here.
Yeah, because you're trying to make it out to be me and it's not me.
No, I'm trying to make it out to be, where's my son, okay? If you were in Palmer Lake and then Douglas County and whatever you did all these turns and turned around and this guy was out there laying in the road, he got in a truck, why do they have your GPS in your car? You were in my truck.
My phone.
No, but I thought you told me yesterday you left your phone at Petco because you had to go back to get it.
No, that was Gannon's phone. Gannon's phone was left at Petco.
You told me, yes, Tisha, I'm not stupid now. Okay, listen, you know I'm better than that. You told me yesterday, you said it almost verbatim, almost quoting you now. You said I set my phone on the counter, okay, because I had these 2 or 3 doggy sweaters or whatever, okay, and then... No, you told me yesterday it was your phone, and then you said it and you forgot it because you kept going and looking at him to make sure he wasn't getting out the truck. Now it's you. Tisha, but how is it all true when you've told me 7 different versions of the same thing? It can't all be true. He can't be a Mexican named Uncle Matt, but he wasn't there until he got in the truck.
See how you keep doing?
No, what I keep doing is not being stupid and letting you get me with bullshit, okay? I need the truth.
Really?
Yeah, really. Really. I mean, you can smirk all you want to, you can roll your eyes, you can hit the steering wheel. That doesn't change the fact that you have the truth and I don't. I mean, because, yeah, so yesterday... It wasn't a Mexican. It was the guy riding around in the Aubrey Holmes vehicle or whatever it's called. Okay, and you gave him the garage code, and then he came in.
These things.
But that's what I do understand. You're spinning me in 12 different directions to help.
Need immunity because they let me tell all this. If I don't keep saying different things, you get the right person. You don't care about that. You don't care if there's a bounty if I say anything.
No, Tisha, what I care about is you, and I care about our relationship and that the fact that we're talking together. No, you're not talking to the
Albert,
police. I'm not making you say anything. I understand. I understand what you're trying to do. I understand you feel like they're making you all these things, and I understand making you say all these things. Sorry, okay. And the fact that you're having to say all these different stories because they're pressuring you, and I blame them completely. Okay, I understand that you're just in a bad situation because everybody's after you, and you feel attacked and all these things. Okay, I understand that. But if you have any faith or respect in me, you got to understand that, I believe that truth is always easier than having to go 27 different directions, okay? And that's what I'm trying to work out with you here is just the freaking truth.
You. He hurt me. I was tied with my arm.
Okay, well, who is he? Who tied you up? Who did this? You didn't do it. Who did it? Who hurt Gannon? Who has Gannon? Who wants the money? Who hurt you? Who is they? And how did he hurt Gannon? These are the questions I need to know. Who is he and who are they?
He first told me his name was but it's not. It's Quincy Brown.
Quincy Brown. So, so Quincy Brown is the one who has him. What was he driving when he was following you? What was he driving when he was following you? What? A red car. See, I think that's what I was saying. You're on it. The fact that you know his name, or he said Eduardo, but you found out his name was Quincy Brown, driving a red car. What? Wait, listen. Wait. How did he hurt Gannon, and how bad was Gannon hurt? Say that again. You said. I can't hear you, Tisha. Try to calm down.
When I came out, Gannon was gone. I just could hear him screaming. I couldn't do anything.
So Gannon was screaming, and you heard him. You heard. Right. No, I said heard. I said you heard, like you heard him screaming. The guy heard Gannon. So you know the guy heard him, Quincy Brown. Huh? Do you know what he hurt him with? Was he hitting him? Was he?
I came back in there. He started taking boxes out.
Okay, so how do you know Quincy Brown? How do you know it was him?
He told me his name was Eduardo, but he came back in there taking boxes out. And I came Quincy Brown. I saw it.
Oh, what boxes was he taking out?
I thought he was going to rob our house and take things.
So he had an ID on, and what did you get anything besides his name, like a company or something?
Quincy Brown. It was his pocket. He had his big baggy pants on, and in his pocket, the paper fell out, and on top of the paper was his ID. And it had his picture, T. Brown.
Okay, all right. All right, but what kind of boxes? What boxes was he taking out? Was he out of the storage room? What? I mean, what?
In the storage room.
Oh, you were in the storage.
Do what?
You did. That's the first you told me that you were in the storage room.
He tied me in the storage room.
I'm sorry, you were crying and screaming. I couldn't understand that part. So now I know you were tied up. You couldn't do anything because you were screaming and you had the bandana in your mouth. You were tied up. Is this after the police left and after Gannon and him were in the storage room, or before that, or what?
It was after the police left late that night. I
Okay.
realized that he was doing out early and laying in the room and told him to shut the door and don't come out.
Okay. All right. So what boxes was he taking out of the storage room, or what? Okay, well, you brought that up, so that's huge. I mean, if he's taking boxes, what was in the boxes? I'm just trying to sort through all this, okay? Empty boxes, okay. So back up. Gannon and this Quincy Brown guy, they were in the storage room the whole time, and you were trying to point the police to the storage room?
I never told you that. I said when the cops went to the storage room, I went to boxes piled up here. I even went to the little Christmas closet.
That they were in there, and you tried to direct them somehow to the storage room. You did say that.
Not what I said. That is not what I said.
Okay, maybe I'm paraphrasing. Telling him
where hiding places were in the storage room.
Then where the fuck were they? It all is relevant. Where were they at? You said earlier you heard him scream from the storage room. Okay? Where were they at?
There was no screaming when the cops were there. What are you talking about?
You know, honestly, I'm kind of getting fed up because you know what? Yesterday, in the 3 previous versions, okay, it all happened in Gannon's room. Now it all happened in the fucking storage room. Make your mind up. You banged your head on Gannon's table. You were raped in Gannon's room. Gannon was beat up. He was high-fiving the guy. He was jumping on him. He was loving him. Uncle Matt, he was a Mexican. It all happened in Gannon's room. Now it happened in the storage room. God damn it, Tisha, make some sense out of this.
That is before the police got there, Albert.
What time did all that happen? What time did that happen?
You asked me about the police got there.
Tisha, to me, this is all bullshit because none of it makes sense. None of the timeline adds up. Every time you tell it to me, there's more and so okay. Yeah, fine. Go get your fucking immunity. I hope you get it, because I don't want nothing bad to happen to you. I don't want nothing bad to happen to nobody. I want my son back.
I'm trying to help you get him back.
So at what point did you call the police? The guy was with you. He was in the house. He was just letting you call the police? Because you said he was in the truck. Well, him and Gannon were in the truck, come back from wherever the fuck you picked him up on the side of the road, and he just jumped in and said, "Here's a hamburger, take me home," or something, whatever. Okay? Yeah. I'm being a goddamn smartass because this is bullshit. Okay? So you're all in the house and you're just drinking sweet tea, and he's like, "I'm holding you at gunpoint, but go ahead and call the police, please." Right? That's your story. That's your story, Tisha. That's your story. Because initially he was already in the house when you got home with Gannon. That's what you told me initially. I am listening. Okay, so all right, so assume I believe you now. So Quincy Brown is the one holding Gannon for all the money, and you didn't tell me. So now, all this 3 weeks now, you've known who has my son, You've known he's out to get you or after you or whatever, and you think I'm going to be okay with me just finding this out after I've been crying my heart out for 3 weeks now? You think that's cool? Because you're worried about your immunity?
What?
Immunity. That's all you said all day long after yesterday when you told me 7 different stories. Today it's immunity. And now I find about it. Quincy Brown in a red car with boxes has my son and he wants money and you never told me about it. It's like we're playing fucking Clue here or something. Or Who's Who. And yes, I'm being a smart ass because I'm tired of this shit.
I don't want nothing but my family and everything in Gannon to be there. I begged you to help me for days. I can tell you this. I begged you. But you would never have to not be around everybody and call me. Never.
You know, it's funny. I'm going to stop you right there because it's funny. You started that statement again with, I just want my family and Gannon. Part of your family. He's not an and, he's part of it. That's why I don't believe that shit because you keep saying that. Go ahead.
I am agreeing to testify against this. I am agreeing to even myself to walk out wherever money, risking a chance to fucking shoot me just to get Gannon.
Hey, I'm going to tell you, listen, I know enough about immunity that you're not going to get immunity if you keep lying about this fucking Quincy guy. There's no fucking Quincy guy. There's no Eduardo. There's no Uncle Matt.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever me all you want to, but there's no fucking Quincy. Yeah. Should have freaking told me about Quincy Brown from the get-go. That's why there's no fucking Quincy Brown.
Really?
Yeah, really, Tisha. Yeah, this is just blowing my mind here. You sit here and you want to be a family, the 4 of us in Gannon, like you say. You want us to get back together and be all intimate and, blah, 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 blah. But you keep fucking lying to me. 5 years of lies and now my son's gone. Where is Gannon, Tisha?
Quincy, that's who took him.
Where the fuck is Gannon, Tisha?
Quincy Brown.
Where? Where's Quincy Brown? He's obviously, you know something about him. Is he in town? Are you in town? Is Gannon in town? Who's anywhere? Nobody knows where anybody is except for you.
Here, you wanted to help. You wanted to listen so we could go have him arrested. But now you don't have any interest in.
I do. I'll let them know as soon as we get off the phone. Go look for a 5'7" Mexican guy named Uncle Matt that changed his name to Quincy.
Because I found out who he is.
But
I
you
got
said
to
you knew.
after me.
Oh my God. Where's Gannon, Tisha?
Quincy Brown took Gannon.
You almost said his name different. Okay, is it Quincy Brown or
Brown is what I said.
where is Gannon?
All right, I think now would be a good time for a break. So we will take our break until 10:45. Again, don't discuss case among yourselves. Don't discuss case with anyone else. And we'll see you at 10:45. All rise for the jury, please. Thank you, Male. Seated record should reflect the jury has left the courtroom. I wanted to pass on, you guys will need a pen for this. the issue that we were talking, take a look, and I'm not asking for an answer. I want you guys to, you'll have some time to look at this, but I also want you to look at these cases. People versus Boykins, 140 Pacific 3rd, 87, and Riggins versus Nevada, 504 US.
Riggins was the case that I was thinking of.
Okay. It's, actually, I have the Supreme Court citation. It's 112 SCT 1810 1810, decided 1992. So take see if we have some further discussion. Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
All right then. Court will be in recess.
How long did you say, Your Honor?
10:45.
You got anything else to say before I hang up on you? Good. Don't email me. Don't call me. Don't use my name in the media. Don't say shit about me until you tell me where my son is.
Mr. Allen, if you'd resume your seat in the witness stand, remind you, sir, that you're still under oath.
Mr. Stauch, in that particular phone call, you made a comment there,
Manipulation.
meaning the defendant manipulating situations.
The defendant manipulating situations, as I witnessed in that video, her doing to Gannon.
Sounds like potentially the defendant sent you a text message to tell you who this Quincy Brown was. Did that happen? In that phone
During
call?
that phone call, yes, sir.
Did you then do a Google search for a Quincy Brown?
I believe I did on the spot, yes, sir.
And what did you find when you Googled Quincy Brown?
Exactly what I referenced. I call it mugshots, but like, lineup.com or mugshots.com, whatever it was specifically, but his face next to a bunch of other people that have been arrested.
Was that essentially a sex offender that was wanted in the Colorado Springs area?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever have any independent knowledge that Quinn Howe involved in Gannon's disappearance?
No, sir.
You asked the defendant in there, or actually the defendant, I'm sorry, said that she was in Colorado Springs. Did you know where she was at that time?
No, sir.
Did you think she was in Colorado Springs?
No, sir.
And then similar to the other calls, her personality that she was using in that phone call, was it consistent with the way you know her?
Absolutely.
Did she ever change into a different personality?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to, Your Honor, People's Exhibit 40, which is another recorded phone call, February 14th, 2020, 1:21 p.m.
All right. Mr. Stauch, you can go ahead and step down. Thank you, sir.
And this is just short of 16 minutes, Judge.
Okay.
Butter sandwich.
I ate mine too. Hello?
Are you still along? Are you still along?
Yes. Okay, here, you asked for one more chance. Here it is. I'm going to shut up. You just say what you got to say. I ain't going to say it's your chance.
What's that noise?
That's my water bottle.
Do you love me?
Yes.
Oh. All right. If you know it's an accident, are you going to stand by me?
Yes, absolutely, Tisha. I've told you that from day one.
I'm sorry for all the stories. I just didn't know what to do. Oh. So we were going to get your to get your bike. I was letting get it right. It was really big, so I got pink. You fell off of it. It hurt bad. You know so much about like heels and stuff.
What? I didn't hear you. What?
I said when he fell, he got hurt because there was like going heels and stuff. The guy was helping him ride the bike.
Keisha, babe, what, how bad did he get hurt?
He was bleeding.
Where was he bleeding from?
His arms, his knees, his head.
So his head was bleeding? And this, oh, God.
And he promised me he was going to go back to his house and get some bandages and call 911 because we had accidentally left him all in Petco. I swear to God, Quincy's real.
So what happened, baby?
I just never cared they got hurt. I was supposed to call 911. I was supposed to be taking him back and I called 911.
So the guy took him to take him to 911?
I swear to God, his name's Quincy Brown. That's the guy I was supposed to be meeting again.
The Craigslist guy?
Yeah.
And you met him where? Like up in wherever that
Those messages. My actual followers were at you guys. I was scared he didn't come back with.
so keep going. I'm sorry.
I thought if I was like, I'll go back and I'll just go keep searching. And I did. I spent the whole night driving to find him.
In my truck?
Sure, I'm sorry for these stories. I just didn't want to do because I didn't want you to hate me.
Why would I hate you if it wasn't your fault?
Because I couldn't get to him. And he was bleeding from his head and his knees. It was an accident.
Okay. So start over. So because this is really hard to hear. Okay, but so you left Petco.
You don't talk to me like that. Where you're going to go down this road and chastise me and tell
I'm not. You're telling me the truth now.
Sure, go back,
Okay, and I believe you now because this. Thank you for telling me the truth. This means the world to me. And where was this at? Like, what exit? You mentioned the exit yesterday. What exit was this at?
It was like 163. I don't know. It's on my phone.
Okay, so if you can reach out to them and then give you your phone, then they could find it, right? Can you think of a landmark? Just like help me find him, babe. Just help, because I can go search. I can go right now and search.
That's the only reason I asked for immunity because I didn't finish an accident and I wasn't trying to cover up anything. I was trying to figure out why he took him. If I said something like you saw it hurt us in the house or something, I'm looking for him.
When the guy,
I wanted to try to bike out and he needed help because the bike was too big. And you want to know why I've been gone? Why my car's been in that direction? I've been driving up and down there all the time until they took my car. Driving to do anything I can find, anything. Driving to find this dude. I even called into the police department and they're like, yeah, because he's wanted. If you know where he's at, let me know. So nobody tried to help me. Because before you think I made him show me his ID, because I was making sure. So I think to do the bike today, that's all.
so Letecia, hold on. You went to his house, or where did you meet this guy at? Quincy Brown or whatever. Because if you went to his house, they could.
Please.
I'm listening.
I need to tell you.
Okay.
He said to me that he would be off that exit. When I turn off the exit, you can look.
Okay.
I turned off the exit left because I thought that was direction, but he thought I was coming from south, from north. So I turned on right and went towards the other direction, and I didn't see anyone with a bike in the store.
Okay. So there was a store?
He said there was a store. I said I didn't see anyone with a bike in the store.
Oh,
So I went the other direction.
I got you.
When I went the other direction, I see him with the bike. And I said, hey, there's the guy with the bike. And I made him show me his ID. And legit, we talked. Some kind of biking. And this was a tour bike. And I got a little nervous because I said, why would he have some tour bike and he's trying to sell it? You know, like, I was asking him questions like, did you not ride anymore? Did you get hurt? You know, like these stories I was asking him. Then I realized I didn't have the phone because I had left it at Petco. So then, analyzing him and talking to him and stuff like that. So I assume, you know, nice guy. I ride it. I was holding on to it just so I could see. And he was like, do you think your daddy will like this bike? Then the next thing you know, whenever they like both slid, he slid with Gannon in the bike. And Gannon like went, like not necessarily tumbling, but sliding down and he hit his head. And I ran over there. I was just crying to help because I don't want to have my phone. He was like, I live right up here, I'm gonna take him, and we'll call. And I'm just still sitting there crying and crying. They gotta see me get off the exit. That's why I didn't adamant about you finding this dude.
Where, so you got off exit 163?
Nope, it was whatever county line or some shit like that was
Oh,
called.
that County Line Road or whatever we always take? It was on that road?
No, you had to turn off of that road. I went the wrong way to start with, so I turned right. Because he thought I was coming from that direction. I was supposed to turn right.
But this was the exit off 25 that you turned the wrong way, or off of County Line Road?
Off of 25, you can get off and go both directions.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to narrow it down so I can go look, but so was there anything else besides you said he scraped his knees, he scraped his elbows, he busted his head, and he had the burns on his arms.
Well, there was some bad burns, Albert. The burns were just little bubbles from the fire. That had nothing to do with it. Now maybe it could have like scraped them open some because he already had them, but Gannon was fine. He was talking to me. He wasn't complaining on any kind of pain. I would have took him straight to the doctor if the burns would have had any kind of pain to him.
Okay.
That's the only reason I didn't ask you for any kind of immunity because I committed some kind of crimes. I just know that it was an accident and all I know someone was trying to help me. And then I didn't know where he went from there.
What? So, the one I'm worried the most about is the freaking head wound because where was he? How bad was he bleeding?
It was pretty bad.
It was pretty bad. Like it was. Tell me bad. Is bad like blood's dripping down his face, or bad like he's? Or did you do anything to wrap around his head or anything?
Yes, my clothes I had on had blood on them.
The clothes you had on?
Yeah.
Okay. So
It was like, oh my God.
was this on the road or was this at the station? Like where?
Show you to explain where. I don't know my way around Colorado.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out if there's blood on the road. Maybe we can find blood on the road or something. That's all I was saying.
Searching.
Okay.
Somewhere.
I agree. I agree they should find it. So where on his head? Like was it the side or back of his head? What?
Albert, I don't know. I was panicked.
Okay, so you were panicking. So an accident happened and you panicked, right?
I was panicking.
Okay,
I didn't have a phone.
right. And this guy, did he have a phone?
He said he would run back to his house. He had Gannon, said he'd run back.
Okay. So he took Gannon to his house is what he told you, right? And you did you stay where you were? Or did you follow him or what? Babe.
Mr. Allen?
Sure, we would just have Mr. Stauch come back to the stand.
Mr. Stauch, if you'd resume your seat in the witness stand, I remind you, sir, that you're still under oath.
Judge, I'm not sure if I said it, but that was actually exhibit number 40 that we played, which was that February 14th.
Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Stauch, in this particular phone call, you hear the defendant sounding potentially like crying. Did that sound to you?
It did to me.
You made a comment that you're telling me the truth now. Was that an honest statement to you or from you, or was this you trying to get her to just keep talking?
Yeah.
As you're talking to the defendant in that particular phone call, was her personality consistent with the way you knew her personality?
Yes, sir.
Did she change it to any different personalities during that phone call?
No, sir.
All right. Is this the first time in this phone call that the defendant gives you any indication that Gannon suffered a head injury?
Yes, this is the first indication of his head injury. Yes, sir.
And then in conjunction with other injuries that she mentioned, and that was burns to his arms that bubbled, and then also bleeding from his butt very early on.
Yes, sir.
In that phone call, do you remember when the defendant describes having blood on her clothes and using her clothing to stop the bleeding on Gannon's head?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever see anything that corroborated that version of the story, such as any clothes with bloodstains on them when you got home from Oklahoma?
I did not. No, sir.
Okay. May I approach with People's Exhibit 49?
You may go ahead.
Mr. Stauch, I'm showing you People's Exhibit. Will you please flip through that and let me know?
Okay, I'm finished.
You recognize what is marked as People's Exhibit 49?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
It's a book full of messages between myself and the defendant.
Is the date range for this particular group of text messages basically February 29th through March 1st of 2020? If you look at the timestamps on them?
Yes, it is.
Are those fair and accurate representations of the text messages that she sent, or at least came from her phone and that you responded with?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I move for admission of People's Exhibit 49.
Defense, Exhibit 49 will be admitted. Go ahead.
May I approach the witness with People's Exhibit 206?
Yes.
Judge, for the record, as Mr. Stauch first, before I start that, flip through that and then let me know when you're done. And Judge, what we're doing with this particular exhibit is just pre-qualification. His portion of these text messages will actually admit this later through a different witness.
Okay.
Do you recognize that item?
Myself and Harley's phone.
Harley Hunt?
Harley Hunt.
Okay.
Between her phone.
And what I'm asking you specifically for your portion of this exhibit, the text messages that came from you or from your phone, do those appear to be fair and accurate representations of your communications?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Or may I retrieve that?
Yes.
Mr. Stauch, how much time did you spend with this defendant, just total time from the start of your relationship until all of this happened?
Like we mentioned yesterday, we started dating in early 2014, so roughly 6 years.
During that time, did you spend a lot of in-person time with her?
Absolutely.
Did that give you an opportunity to observe her mental condition?
Yes, sir.
Besides just, we all have different weird idiosyncrasies. Did you ever see anything that went beyond just our own individual personality traits
No,
in the
sir.
defendant?
No, sir.
Did you ever see an opportunity or have an opportunity to observe the defendant, whether she could understand the difference between right and wrong?
Absolutely.
Can you tell the jury about that?
Obviously, throughout our relationship, I think to some moments immediately preceding January 27th. I mean, she took the kids to, the defendant took the kids on a hike. She made it there safely. Kids made it home safely. Obviously didn't, from my knowledge, didn't get a ticket, so obeyed all of the traffic laws on the way there and the way back. Morning of the 27th, we talked about Gannon and the switch, as we've seen with some text messages. Some right and wrong issues there about how we disciplined him with the taking the switch away for whatever his offense was in that moment. And I communicated with the defendant about that punishment specifically and how to manage that. After the events of the 27th, I just think too how much the defendant pressed me about what was right in our relationship, how I should take her side and what was right and wrong and how I was managing that piece of it. Something that stands out more than anything is, as the defendant said to me in one of these phone calls, I think one we heard yesterday, that she didn't allow Lena back in the house when Lena got home from school. I don't know any reason why she would have not allowed Lena back in the house. Then I don't know. There's something going on that she didn't want Lena to see. If there was nothing going on in that house, why could Lena not have come in the house that day when she got home from school?
Okay, and we're going to get more into that in just
Sure.
a minute, but I appreciate you bringing that up. You lived with her in South Carolina, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you need a cup of water or anything?
I'm okay.
Okay. You lived with the defendant in South Carolina, Colorado, also spent time with her in Alaska.
Yes, sir.
Did the defendant follow the laws in all of those places? You went on trips. You mentioned that yesterday.
Yes, sir.
Who would typically plan the trips?
She would plan and organize just about everything. She was very good at it and was able to get us to, the port on time for cruises, to the terminal on time for plane trips, and organize rental cars. We always get it there and back on time. I mean, always, exactly what we needed to do.
So
time-wise.
she was able to set up an itinerary and then follow the itinerary
Yes, sir.
with no troubles.
Never.
You mentioned, the discipline with the switch, Gannon's gaming system.
Yes, sir.
Was it very typical for her to be engaged with disciplining the kids, both Gannon, Lena, and even Harley if she needed it?
Yes, sir.
Can you give the jury some examples of that beyond just the switch?
Well, that was just our typical source of punishment, was to take away iPad or Switch or our TV time if they didn't follow the rules or didn't do chores as was prescribed to them. She was also had a very, very meticulous about the kids' schedule. Hey, when you get home, this is the right thing to do. You come home, come in the house, have your snack, do your homework, and there was, not rewards necessarily, but repercussions if they didn't follow that prescribed schedule for them on a daily basis.
Here, Mr. Stauch, the time frame as we get to January 2020, and especially that Saturday night when you left up to DIA, did you ever have any concerns that she was having this crack in her mental health?
No, sir.
What would you have done if you had observed some major crack in her mental health?
I would not have gone on that trip. I did have the flexibility to cancel my training and move it to another time if need be. I would not have left the house and not left the kids there if I had any, or she showed signs of a mental crack approaching.
And at any time during your relationship with the defendant, did you ever see her have some major crack in her mental health condition?
No, sir.
Did you know her to have any severe mental illnesses?
No, sir.
I want to ask you what you just got into a little bit ago, and that is in relation to January 27th. Was there a period of time in the afternoon of that day when you were trying to get a hold of the defendant?
Yes, sir.
How were you trying to get a hold of her?
I remember making a phone call or two. I don't remember how many specifically, but that was just not answered.
And also text messages?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever get an answer during that window of time from mid-afternoon of the 27th?
I don't remember specifically when. I know at some point in that afternoon, we had a conversation about, I wanted some new headphones, and we talked about what an appropriate price range would be, and where is a good place for me to go look, whether I was on base or at the PX or the Apple Store or whatever. So once again, another conversation about what is right, wrong, appropriate. But I don't remember specifically when that happened. I just remember it was that afternoon after I got out of class.
When you look back on it now, does that seem significant to you?
It was as soon as all this started happening, that was a very significant moment.
Does that coincide with your understanding of what you just described, that the defendant would not let Lena in the house after getting home from school? Is that the same time frame?
It's the same. I don't know exactly when that conversation happened. I'd have to see a timestamp on that.
Okay.
But generally in the same time frame, Monday afternoon, January 27th, 2020.
Okay. May I have just a moment?
You may.
So, Mr. Stauch, the last thing I wanted to say for you was, what is your opinion as to the defendant's sanity at the time of this event, and just generally speaking?
I believe is and was 100% absolutely sane based on all the things I witnessed and I've laid out. I have no other indication for anything else.
And when you say it that way, are you talking about in the totality of your relationship?
From the time I met her till even today.
Okay. And then very specifically to when you left on January 26th, January 25th, you left the house on that Saturday. What is your opinion as to her sanity on January 25th?
100% sane.
What about January 26th?
Same thing, 100%
And January 27th when Gannon went missing?
sane.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Cross-examination, Mr. Tellini?
May we approach?
Sure. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our lunch break early, and then we will come back for cross-examination. So if I can have everyone back in the jury room a little bit before 1 o'clock, we should be able to start on time at 1 o'clock. So again, do not discuss the case among yourselves. Don't discuss the case with anyone else. Don't do any research about any aspect of this case. And with that, we will see you at 1 o'clock. All rise for the jury, please. Thank you. You may be seated. Record should reflect the jury has left the courtroom. With that, we will take our noon recess and we'll be back at 1. Mr. Stauch, if you would resume your seat on the witness stand, sir. And I remind you, sir, that you're still under oath. Let's go ahead and bring the jury in. We can start that camera, the one that shows the courtroom.
Yeah.
We can start that one. That's you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. There we go. No, you've got it. Oh, you're right. Got to take that back in, though. All rise for the jury, please. So that automatically resets on and out.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Thank you. May all be seated. Court will recall 20 CR 1358 versus Letecia Stauch. Record should reflect the jury has returned to the courtroom. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. When we took our break thing, we were we had finished point.
I know this is emotional and difficult, so I'm going to try to keep my questions somewhat brief. If at any time you don't understand any of my questions, just ask me to. A lot of my questions correct, and so be able to, it needs to be added on or clarified. Mr. Allen will have the opportunity to do that. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to kind of go back. I'm going to do this somewhat chronologically. I'm going to go back to 2014 when you first met Ms. Stauch. And at that point in time, you were going through a divorce, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that it had kind of been initiated but not finalized legally?
I mean, in South Carolina, there's a 1 year waiting period.
Yeah.
In a no fault type divorce situation, and we were in that period. So,
Okay.
yes, sir.
So you guys, physically, you guys had been separated, but you're waiting for the legality of the divorce to conclude?
Yeah, the final date of the divorce.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And were you in the military at that point in time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And also one of the things that you did for enjoyment and recreation is you played softball.
Yes, sir.
How many teams did you play on?
I couldn't even give you a number. We played year round.
Okay.
Myself and Landon and the defendant, co-ed, men's, women's league, whatever. We played year round pretty much.
And that's when you first met Ms. Stauch?
Yes, on that fall 2013 team is the first time I ever remember having interactions with her.
And she was a pretty good softball player?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, later on, when you guys moved here, she ended up actually helping coach out the Whitefield softball team.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then in the spring, summer 2014, you progressed to a romantic relationship?
Yes, sir.
And at that point in time, you were kind of more or less living by yourself.
Well, as I explained yesterday, I still owned my house. I
Yeah.
call it the marital residence with Landon, and which sold in the August timeframe.
Okay.
So I was in an arrangement with Miss Hyatt or with Landon at that point. So I was in my house.
Taker, custodian of Gannon and Lena, correct?
She had the majority of the parenting time in the custody arrangement. Yes. sir.
Okay. And then they would come with you guys for, a weekend here, a weekend. Was it every weekend or every other weekend or?
I got them, if I remember correctly, I got them every Wednesday night and then every other weekend.
would be
Okay.
my parenting time. And I usually picked them up from school, dropped them off back at school the next day or whatever.
Sure. And you guys were all living, this is all in Myrtle Beach, correct?
In that general area, Landon was a little bit outside of Myrtle Beach, but yeah, we were all in that general area.
Okay. And I think you described, yesterday especially, at the beginning, the relationship was fun, fresh, and it was a good time. And it was, that'd be correct?
Yes, sir.
And it seemed it had progressed pretty quickly.
Yes, sir.
And then, so you start dating kind of in 2014, and then by 2015, you guys had moved in together.
Yeah, we got married in January 2015.
Okay. So move pretty quickly. And then at some point in time, you ended up filing for you to be the primary custodian parent of Gannon and Lena.
Yes, sir.
And you did that because you had some safety concerns.
Just some reservations about different things Landon was doing, and so I took it to the courts. Yes, sir.
I mean, you had some concerns that there was criminal activity going on in her house.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you had some concerns about drug use going on in the house.
Yes, sir.
As it relates to the relationship with.
And I'll bring it there.
I think I see where it's going, overruled.
And you had some concerns about, is it Mike Hyatt or Hoyt?
Hyatt.
And that was the person who you're just referencing in those phone calls, correct?
Yes, sir.
That you looked up and you'd seen his mugshots and so forth.
Yes, sir.
And that's who Landon was living with at that point in time.
Who was living with?
With Landon, that's who Landon was living with.
Landon. As far as I know, yes, sir. Sir.
Okay. And you thought it would be for your two children.
Yes, sir.
And when you filed for custody, it wasn't just custody for you, but also Ms. Stauch was given custody as well.
When I filed for it, or when I filed for it, it was between me and Landon. The house in Myrtle Beach, as I referenced yesterday. Because the defendant did not want to permanently move to Alaska, we kept that other residence as well. And the kids did stay there with the defendant for a few, most of that first semester, or that fall semester.
So for the entire fall semester while you were in Alaska, Ms. Stauch was a primary caregiver and custodian of the two kids.
In Myrtle Beach, yes, sir.
Myrtle Beach,
Yeah.
yes. And part of that also was so they could also be in, proximity with their mother as well.
Yeah, it's more complicated than the defendant just got custody of the kids. There's
No.
a whole,
A lot of factors. were
yes,
in
a lot of
place.
variables there. Yes, sir.
Okay. But you felt comfortable and you felt that was a safer environment for them to be with Ms. Stauch as opposed to being with Landon
At that time, yes, sir.
at that point in time, based upon your dealing with her, based upon what you knew of her, and based upon what you knew was going on with Landon.
Yes, sir.
And also, right at that point in time, when this kind of custody, shifted from Landon to you and Ms. Stauch, that's initially when you enrolled Gannon in counseling.
No, sir, that would have been after we moved to Colorado. As I testified yesterday, January of 2019 is when that began. Or, well, I didn't get here until February. So in that late winter, early spring portion of 2019. So you're talking 3 to 6 months later.
Second. Do you remember kind of that back in January of 2020, January 28th or 29th, you sat down, you had an interview with Detective Mark Riley?
Yes.
Do you remember telling Detective Riley, as soon as me and my ex split up, got divorced, and I got custody, I started taking them to counseling?
I don't remember saying that. If you have
Are you,
a
I'm
transcript
looking
or something I can look at.
4702? You're aware that I mean, you've had a lot of interactions with Mr. Allen, correct?
Yes.
And you're aware that a lot of the interviews that the El Paso County Sheriffs, as well as many of these phone calls that they made transcripts of,
Yes, sir.
when
Absolutely.
looking at that transcript, refresh your recollection.
Absolutely.
I may approach, you may. Does that refresh your recollection?
I mean, if that's a transcript,
So that indicates to you that you told the detective back then that you got Gannon in counseling right after the custody split, and you did that primarily because of the custody issue.
yeah, and I don't know why I said that specifically, but the Dr. Burtek I referenced in this, that did not begin until, as I already stated, late winter, early spring 2019.
Okay.
So-
So approach.
Sure.
You may. Yes. And I think it's fair that it was initially the plan that Ms. Stauch was going to come and bring all the kids to Alaska and you guys were going to live in Alaska. That was the initial plan. When you went to Alaska,
Once I got stationed there,
that they were all going to come
I
up.
think it's safe to assume that, yes.
Okay, and she'd come up to visit you, a couple times up there?
Yeah, for short periods of time, she did.
And it's fair to say she didn't like Alaska.
She did not like Alaska.
And part of that, I mean, she's from South Carolina. Right?
Yes.
And
No, she's from North Carolina.
I mean, you're right. She's from Lumberton, North Carolina, but she lived a lot in South Carolina.
Yes.
She liked the beach. She liked the sun. She liked the weather.
Yes.
She liked activities. Alaska was a little barren, a little depressing at night.
You're asking me to testify about how she felt about everything. I'm going to stay away from that, Mr.
All
Tony.
right, that's fine. That's fair.
Yep.
Very fair. Regardless, she never ended up going to Alaska.
Permanently, no. She did come to visit, as we already testified to.
And how long were you in Alaska again?
Just shy of 2 years.
And did Gannon and Lena ever move to Alaska?
So initially, I got 2018.
Okay.
They immediately came with me to Alaska. School year, I don't specifically remember what we did over the summer.
Okay.
And this is 2018. In the beginning in the fall is when the custody arrangement with the children, with the defendant in the Myrtle Beach household.
Okay.
That's when that began, in that fall school year, 2018.
The fall school year of 2018, she was the person primarily responsible
Yes, sir.
for both Lena and Gannon.
In the Myrtle Beach household, yes, sir.
Okay. And you felt safe with that?
Yes, sir.
And overall, at least what you observed, it appeared, that she had a fairly good relationship with Gannon, Ms. Stauch did.
From what I observed, yes, sir.
I mean, I think you've indicated in some of these prior interviews that she appeared to care for him and he loved her.
Yeah, absolutely. I testified to that yesterday. I felt like he had some love and trust he had some love in his heart, and he definitely had trust for her.
And you remember, was it in Mother's Day of 2018, he actually did a Mother's Day card for Ms. Stauch?
I don't remember that specifically, unless you had a picture or something.
I do,
of
if
it.
I may approach. You may. Approaching with what's been marked as offense exhibit B.
B is in Bravo.
B is in Bravo, yes, thank you. Does that look familiar to you?
I've seen this picture.
Written by Gannon to Ms. Stauch.
I cannot attest to who was written by. I was shown this picture by the defendant. Yes, sir.
Okay, does that appear to be Gannon's handwriting?
It's similar to his handwriting. Yes, sir. I don't have anything else to compare it to right now, and I haven't seen his handwriting in 3 years, Mr. Tellini.
Okay,
So-
so I may approach. go, then move forward a little bit to January of 2017. You left on that Saturday, January of 2020, January 2020. You
Okay.
left on that Saturday, correct?
Saturday night, yes, sir, after work.
And your mom had been there for a while?
Roughly a week or so. I don't remember specifically.
Okay. What did your mom do for a living?
She is a nurse practitioner in the mental health field.
Okay. Had you had conversations with your mom about Ms. Stauch and her mental health?
Yes.
And you'd raised some concerns with your mom about Ms. Stauch's mental health?
Yes.
And your mom thought she needed to be on medication?
I don't remember that specifically. So.
Okay. You had some you left Saturday, slept most of it. You got in early Sunday morning into Oklahoma?
Yes. No, it was Sunday afternoon by the time I got there.
Okay.
Because remember when I got off the plane, the defendant shared the news about Kobe Bryant passing
Oh,
away.
that's right.
So it was in the afternoon some point.
She a big Kobe Bryant fan?
I don't remember. I mean, I think so. I don't remember that sticking out. More Derek Jeter was her, and the Yankees was the defendant's super fan.
But so you had fairly decent communication with her for most of Sunday?
I believe so, yeah.
Nothing seemed out of the ordinary?
Nothing out of the ordinary Sunday.
She let you know that she took Gannon and Lena on a hike in Garden of the Gods?
I believe so. I believe we talked about that, yes, sir.
And she actually posted a photo of that on Instagram?
I don't know where she posted that photo, Mr. Delaney.
You remember talking again with Detective Riley?
At this point?
Yeah, sorry. She posted after this, you talked to Detective Riley.
I didn't even know Detective Riley existed until I got back home and Gannon was already allegedly missing.
So sometimes, like, if you're saying you don't remember stuff, then I'm going to re-reference your interview with Detective Riley and then showed you a transcript where you talked about whatever I'm Detective Riley.
Okay, so
Just for procedure. So you know what, when I
understand your question. You were on Sunday talking about Kobe Bryant, and then you jumped to, do you remember talking to Detective Riley again? So could you clarify, please?
Absolutely. And thank you, because when I said if I ask a bad question, thank you for letting me clarify. You had told Detective Riley that she had posted that photo on her Instagram.
Okay.
Okay.
If I said that and you have a transcript of it, then I'm not up here to deny it.
Would you-
No, sir.
Would you recognize that photo?
If you showed it to me, I'm more than likely.
Portion was marked as Offense Exhibit A.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir, I recognize that photo.
Okay. And that was,
I mean, that, then yes, I mean, I don't see anything on here indicating Instagram and the,
Your Honor, move for issue on Defense Exhibit A.
Mr. Allen? That limited purpose?
That is purpose.
Okay, I'll allow that limited purpose.
She also indicated that he was,
would you like this back, Mr. Twain?
we can, here, thank you.
I don't want to sit right in front of me.
Absolutely. She indicated to you that he was having some stomach problems,
Yes, sir.
and that wasn't unusual. Sometimes you would have stomach.
That was common.
Very good. She indicated to you that she was going to keep him home from school on Monday.
Yes, sir.
And at the point in time when she said that, that seemed somewhat normal to you.
Keeping him home from school didn't seem normal, but the fact that he had a stomach issue and if it was to the point of, embarrassment or whatever, then that was absolutely acceptable.
Okay. And part of it, he would worry about incontinence at school, like was worried about having an accident at school. That was a worry that he had.
At that point, I don't believe that was a worry of his. He typically was able to manage it well and then deal with it at home. I mean, he was 11 years old at that point, so.
And you commented to Detective Riley. Then Monday she kept him home because it didn't, we got to give him some medicine to help clean him out till he gets past that point.
And that was a common practice.
Okay.
Yes,
So he would get blocked up and you give him Miralax to get everything out and then he would be okay.
yes, sir.
Okay. She had also let you know about the candle in the carpet that night on Sunday night.
Sunday, January 26th.
Yes.
I believe that's when that conversation happened. Yes, sir.
Okay. And Gannon was concerned. He was worried that he was going to get grounded for a year.
All of that came from the defendant. I never spoke to Gannon about his grounding. I received messages from his phone about it, but I never spoke to him directly about that at that point.
Okay. Now, that Monday comes and you don't have, there's some communication, but maybe not as much as normal. And then you get notified that Gannon hasn't come home.
Right.
And I imagine at some point, that sends you, into a panic.
Well, I mean, to be clear, I was in military school and training.
Sure.
So when you say not normal, it was actually normal for what I was doing at the time.
Okay. I mean, I'm saying when Gannon doesn't come home, and it's getting to the point where it's at much later than it would be normal for him to
Okay.
come home, even being out late. And so, I mean, you start getting very nervous.
Absolutely, because my son's not home as he should be.
No, absolutely. And then the next morning you got on a flight and you got back as quick as you can.
Absolutely.
And when you get back, initially, there's some things that seem weird about some things that don't add up about what Ms. Stauch is telling you. But initially you think that you guys are all on the same page trying to find Gannon.
What things are you referencing?
The rental car.
Her getting a rental car?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seemed odd.
That seemed odd, but nothing that you're not suspecting her of anything at that point in time. It just seems weird that she's picking you up at a rental car.
Yeah, her picking me up in a rental car was absolutely weird. Yes, sir.
And you have some interviews, again, with some different law enforcement and so forth.
What specific interviews are you referencing?
You had a couple different ones. I think the first one, I believe it was at Starbucks, but it was with Detective Bethel.
There was a few, Detective Riley, Detective Bethel, and I think one other representative was there at Starbucks with myself and the defendant. Yes, sir.
And you're trying to figure out anything, where again can be, if somebody would have taken him, anything like that, and you're talking to them.
I'm doing whatever I can for my son at that point, all during that time frame. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And at some point in time, you even had thought maybe like it could be Layden or it could be Mike involved.
I don't remember ever had Landon was involved in any way. She, regardless of opinions about her, she loved her children. Mike Hyatt, I have no comment on that. I don't think I ever suspected that either.
Do you remember telling Detective Bethel, the mom's married to a guy that's got a lot of trouble with the law? And that was one of my first instincts, was like when the come and go came up and they said that he would walk all nonchalant and everything was normal, like the dude was here or something, because he's got a lot of trouble in his background. So like it came to my mind. It was worth putting down. I don't know if anything is legit.
And that's exactly what I said. It came to my mind and I didn't know if
Okay.
anything was legit. So that's exactly what I just said.
Yeah. And then as that kind of goes on and everything like that, stuff just starts based upon what Ms. Stauch is telling you, it's not adding up.
Repeat that, please, sir.
As this kind of day goes on and the days are progressing, the things that Ms. Stauch is telling you about your son and where he might be, it's starting to not add up with you.
Yeah, it's starting with the rental car, as we've already addressed, it starts to not add up. Yes,
And then when you see that her car is not at French Elementary, like I said, was kind of, I think what you testified yesterday, that was kind of the pivotal moment for you.
yes, sir.
And then you go down to the police station, you want her to come down as well, and she won't come down to meet you at the sheriff's station.
Just to clarify, she was supposed to be the one to go to the police station. The defendant was.
Yeah.
the first time I went down there, I went in her stead because they asked to bring something to get Gannon's DNA or whatever. And I said, he's my son. I'm going to take it down there and I'm going to,
Okay.
lead the charge, if you will, whatever. And then, so I went down there and that's when the first interview took place,
Okay.
just to clarify.
And then after that, though, you come back again, and it's my understanding you were trying to get her to come down, even on that second interview, come down to the police station to be re-interviewed, or the sheriff's station.
When you say re-interviewed, you mean me or the
Her.
defendant? I don't know when she was interviewed the first time or at all. I just know I went twice. The first time, as I indicated, when she was supposed to go, the defendant was supposed to go. The
Yeah.
second time, that evening would have been.
And then her family, she leaves the house. Initially, she doesn't take all her stuff, but she just goes to a hotel, correct?
Mr. Chalina, I have no clue where she
Okay.
went.
She doesn't, she's no longer coming to your house.
After that would have been, let me see if I can get these dates right. The 27th was Monday. I think this would have been Wednesday, the 29th. After she left, I don't remember her coming back until she came to get her stuff.
Okay. And how many days after that did she come to get her stuff?
I don't remember a specific date.
Okay. But I mean, it's in that first week though.
I don't remember a specific date, Mr. Chalina. If you
Okay.
have it, then I don't know.
No, that's fine. And she had family members that are helping her move out.
You did have a few, yes.
Okay. And then you don't ever, until I think what you said after that point, you don't see her from then.
I saw her again after she left, after she got her stuff, that within that first week, whatever the date was, until she showed up for the first court hearing after she was arrested, the defendant, that is.
Now, between then and then, I think the first pre-recorded phone call we heard was on February 13th. Had you been in communication with her?
To some degree, yes.
Was it primary text messages, phone calls?
I think it was just a mix of emails, text, phone calls. I don't remember specifically. I know there was a wide range of methods.
And at least, I mean, would it be fair to say by the time that you're doing these phone calls with her, I mean, you're convinced at that point in time she's the person responsible for your son being missing?
At minimum, a person of interest, if you will, but I suspicion she was responsible.
I mean, and part of that is because, I mean, one, what she was telling you things that weren't true about leaving the car there. So that was the first thing that really shifted, correct?
When you say because, I'd rather tell you the because, but yes, that was one of the first things was that really put her as a person of interest in my mind, and I've said that repeatedly.
Absolutely. And then she goes from saying that Gannon never came home to like a couple days later saying Eduardo was down there and raped me and took Gannon at gunpoint.
No, before she left the house, the
Okay.
defendant told me the first rape story. We covered that yesterday.
Okay. And sorry, thank you for clarifying that. So
Yes, sir.
she's still in the house with you when she comes up, changes from he just doesn't come home to this Eduardo rape story.
Yeah, I don't remember what specific name Eduardo was given by the defendant, but the first rape story would have been Wednesday morning in a master bedroom, as I testified to yesterday.
And then you're aware that she goes down to the sheriff's statement and does an interview about the rape story.
I believe that was later that morning or early afternoon. I don't know specifically when she got there.
Okay. I mean, and at that point, I mean, it's fair to say now, I mean, whatever suspicions, I mean, your suspicions become more heightened at that point about her involvement. When it goes from he doesn't come home to this seemingly ridiculous story.
Yeah, and I've been pretty clear
Yeah.
from the point of not finding her car where the defendant said it was. From that point forward, everything just compounded, and my suspicions just against the defendant.
Absolutely. And what you know of her, I think you said this to a couple people. I mean, she's an intelligent person.
You have record of me saying that to someone?
I do. Sorry, we got a lot of transcripts here. Remember indicating that she had a stacked education?
Once again, do you have that
Okay.
somewhere?
Yeah, this was an interview with Detective Bethel.
You may go ahead.
So that was the second one. Do you have?
That I'll just go with that one. But you
Okay.
indicated that she had a stacked education.
Yeah.
Okay. May I approve?
Obviously, I did.
You may go ahead.
So after,
So I don't know where she. So
okay, she
That
left
day,
that morning.
she left sometime Wednesday, middle of the day. I don't know specifically when.
Okay.
Detective Riley was at the house. I heard the conversation between them two. She left with the intent to follow him downtown to the sheriff's station. I don't know where she went.
Did she ever come back home after that other than to get her stuff?
Not while I was there. I never witnessed her coming back home after that.
And then in February, that's when, February 13th, was that the first pretext phone call?
I believe so.
And where were these phone calls occurring at?
At the FBI office downtown.
Okay. And was this something, had you communicated with her that you wanted to talk to her on that date, or how did they know like she was going to be calling at this point in time?
Who was they?
The FBI.
The FBI. Leading up to that point, there was some attempts at communicating more thoroughly with the.
Yeah.
The defendant reached out to me and said, "Hey, we would need to talk," as you heard in some of the phone calls.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I believe as of that, like I said this morning, I tried to keep her on the hook, if you will.
No, absolutely.
Through messages. And then, all of those would have been planned to some degree. So I could be there with the FBI agents and the sheriff's office agents.
And they had kind of, or there was a plan. I mean, you were trying to get as much information out of her as you could.
Me or the
Both you
authorities?
and the
I
FBI.
can't speak to what their plan or their intent was. My intent was to find my son, period.
Absolutely. And I think you said before when you were, Mr. Allen's questioning, a lot of the things you were saying to her was to try to keep her talking, try to get any type of information, that you can about where your son is.
Absolutely.
And trying, hope against hope to bring him home safely at this point.
Yes, sir.
And if not, then find out what had happened and hold somebody accountable.
My intent was never in that setting to hold somebody accountable. I wanted my son and I wanted to wrap my arms around him. That's it.
Absolutely. And it appeared, and maybe I'm wrong. So we have the one phone call that occurred on the 13th, and then all the other phone calls of February 14th.
The ones that I testified about this 14th.
And for, and how, just for, my clarification, how long of a gap was there between each of the phone calls? Do you remember?
I don't, but I think Mr. Allen detailed that when he said phone call on this date at this time.
What was there, just as far as your recollection, was there a long gap? Were you guys sitting around for like hours waiting in between calls, or were they fairly quick succession between each other?
Mr. Lee, I don't remember. That was a grueling time period in my life to sit there and have to keep my cool.
Absolutely.
Talking to her when I had a strong suspicion she had all the information. So I can't attest to that, Mr.
Okay.
McKinney.
I mean, and it's clear at least that you appear on February 13th to keep your cool very well. It appears, and if I'm wrong on this, your patience on February 14th starts to grow thin. Would that be fair to say? Let me rephrase.
Yes, thank you.
You become more and more frustrated with the cockamamie story she's telling you on February 14th.
I don't know if I think I'm frustrated, period.
Absolutely.
I think I'm at the end of my rope, period. But I did a good job keeping my cool. And if you listen to one of the phone calls, I was a little bit more aggressive verbally. And in a later phone call, I was more patient and letting her give me information. So related than frustrated, Mr.
Okay,
Tilley.
so that was part of this. You're trying different tactics to try to get information. Would that be fair?
I'm doing the best I can to find information about my son.
Information. And was there frustration by the fact that she keeps changing these stories with no consistency between them? And I think you referred to them. These are garbage stories.
Yeah, it was very frustrating.
And that they don't make any sense. At one point in time, says it's Eduardo, and then another point in time she says Quincy Brown's some type of paperwork fell out of his pants on that date, and that's how she knows he's Quincy Brown. I mean, none of this stuff, they were ridiculous.
Is that your?
I'm asking you, would you agree with that?
Yeah, and you heard me say it. They're garbage stories.
That the first one, the one that we heard yesterday, on that phone call that she had yesterday, she's trying very hard to convince you that she didn't have anything to do when somebody had kidnapped Gannon and had taken him somewhere, and she's trying to help. It appears that is her goal, so what she's telling you.
I'm not going to speak to her goals or her intent, what was going through her mind at that point.
She wasn't at that point in time trying to indicate anything mental health or anything like that. That was phone call. She's not telling you, hey, I'm crazy on the 13th, correct?
I don't believe she said that in any of those phone calls.
But in some of those phone calls, she does make some statements. And I'm going on to the February 13th phone call. She indicates at one point in time when she's talking to you, I have completely parts of the information and not part of the information.
Are you recording that? Could you say that again?
She told you that she has part of the information, but she doesn't have part of the information.
Okay.
She talks to you about that night after night, I dreamed of different things that have added detail to this.
Okay.
She tells you that at some point she black.
Are you recording this?
At one point, she says, I sit back and remember it, like play it in my mind, play it in my head again, play it in my head again, play it in my head again.
Okay.
She says, when I woke up and like out of the state of confusion, I was going crazy.
Okay.
She tells you all of it was a blur in and out. Try to figure it out. I got up at one point and hoped it was a dream.
Okay.
And then on that next phone call that occurred on the 14th, she indicates you're going back and forth. I think it was the second to last phone call that you had with her. You're going kind of back and forth. And at one point, you're trying to figure out where Gannon is. She says, Tesha doesn't know where Gannon is.
I don't remember her saying that, but
Okay.
if you want to show me that, you don't have to, but I don't remember her saying that.
Okay. It's on the recording. They have it.
Okay.
As far as, and now I'm going to kind of shift to more like just general things of your relationship with Miss Stauch. You've indicated that at some point, and sometimes with her, it's like you're living on a roller coaster. She can be up and down.
Did I say that to someone?
Yeah. Again, this is that it. Sometimes you just got to kind of stay with her and don't ride the roller coaster. Or if you disagree with her, it becomes like a roller coaster.
Sure.
You talked about her with the kids, and you've indicated that, and this would be later in March, you did another interview, and you did this with the FBI, March 6, 2020. Remember doing an interview with the FBI then?
I did multiple interviews, so I might
Yeah.
need to see that one, Mr. Slaney.
Okay. You indicated to them that sometimes it was a little strange. Sometimes she could be really great with the kids, doing everything with them, and then you'd have weeks where she would act like she didn't want anything to do with them.
You mind if I take a look at that?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't remember that doing an interview at that time frame.
I may approach. You may.
Okay. Hold on, this says February 9th. It says interview of Albert Stauch, February 9th. You indicated March 9th.
That's because the first page has a 3.
Okay.
So you're correct. So February 9th, so that's my fault.
Thank you.
I think that was, I'm going to blame that on the FBI because on the first page of that interview, they have 3-9. But you're correct. So on
Can we
February,
clarify what the date actually is of the?
it is, you were correct. It's February 9th. You did that. But at that point in time, you told them that some point she would be really great with the kids, and then other times she wouldn't want it. She wouldn't.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
With Detective Riley, same type of thing. Like 1 minute, considering these moments of trust moments, like right now, I say, you should be all in, helping the kids, teach, doing homework, cooking, feeding. And so there'd be days in a week, like it's like the kids were left to fend for themselves.
What Monday are you referencing?
The Monday where you had, not the Monday, this would have been Tuesday. We had the interview with Detective Riley back, so January 28th.
Okay. So this was the interview at the sheriff's office?
Yes, with Detective Riley. And you're telling him, describing how Ms. Stauch was with the kids, and you indicate that there are moments and times when she's really good, she's helping the kids, doing everything like that, and then other times where it appears like she's just checked out.
Yes, sir.
You indicated that sometimes her and Layden seemed to work together to try to get you.
Yeah, probably in jest, but
Okay.
yeah.
And then other times they appear to be at each other's throats.
Who's they?
Ms. Stauch and Layden.
Lena? If I said that.
Not Layden, Layden.
Landon?
Landon, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah,
Landon. I
okay,
apologize.
then I take back what I just said, yeah.
First ex-wife, you indicated that sometimes her and Ms. Stauch would work together like they were out to try to get you, and other times they were at their throats constantly.
Yes, sir.
You indicated, and again, if I'm jumping back and forth, that Ms. Stauch would take lots of trips out of the blue and you didn't know where she got the money to do it.
Yes, sir.
You indicated when you talked to the district attorney's investigator that sometimes Ms. Stauch likes to refer to herself as Taylor.
Yes, sir.
She had back a little bit, and we're almost done, sir.
Take your time, Mr. Trellini.
Okay, thank you. When you guys first started, when you and Ms. Stauch first started dating and the relationship was going well, she had talked to you about the abuse she suffered growing up.
She mentioned that there was something with one of her stepfathers. I think his name would have been Mr. Lowry. And that I don't remember it being a pattern of abuse, but some isolated events is the way she described it to me. And she eventually moved out of that house and back with her grandparents in North Carolina.
Okay, and that was James Lowry. Do you remember?
I don't know his first name. I just remember the last name Lowry.
And I don't want to get into this, but that was kind of a bond that you got, not a bond, but that was, you had in your family growing up, but I want to go into it, but some, not with you, but trauma growing up. And so that was something that, a basis that you guys could talk about initially in the relationship.
We discussed it. I don't know if it's a foundational basis like you're describing it, but
She had issues maintaining steady employment.
I think that's a misrepresentation of what happened, but she,
Well, I mean, I think you had like 8 jobs in 3 years.
right, and she intentionally left those jobs. It wasn't, she had trouble keeping employment. She intentionally left those jobs.
Okay, but she had a lot of different jobs in a short period of time.
Yes, sir.
Aware of in the late fall of 2019, she was having mental health issues.
I'm not aware of that.
Are you aware that she was, well, you guys have the same insurance, correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that she was seeing a Dr. Rhonda Niederhauser at Fort Carson?
We did, so let me clarify, we did have the same insurance while myself and the defendant were married, obviously no longer do, but yes, I went with her on one occasion to see Dr. Niederhauser. Well, to Fort Carson. I did not go back into the room with her. With the defendant, I stayed in the lobby, but I was with her on that visit.
And that she, and actually for most of your guys' relationship, she'd been prescribed lorazepam.
I don't know for sure if most of our relationship, I know she at some point saw somebody for anxiety and got a prescription for something. That's all I remember, Mr. Tellini.
Are you aware that Dr. Niederhauser advised her to quit her job because her mental health issues were becoming so severe?
I am not aware of that.
Okay. But you are, to your knowledge, if you know, how often was she seeing Dr. Niederhauser?
Same answer I already gave. I know that she went once, and that was the one time that I went with her. That's all I can attest to, Mr. Cleany.
When you had, again, I'm jumping back to when you had that interview with Detective Riley. At that point in time, were you having concerns about Ms. Stauch and her involvement? When you had the interview with Detective Riley
And her involvement in what, Mr. Cellini?
in the disappearance of your son?
Yeah, we've already, let's ask your question again, please, so I can.
When you interviewed with Detective Riley that first time, were you having concerns about her involvement?
So just to be clear, the first time by myself or,
First time by yourself.
yeah, I did have some concerns.
And you've indicated that you don't think that she had any mental health issues?
No,
at all?
sir. No, I did indicate that I don't think she had any mental
Okay.
health issues.
Do you remember at that point in time, telling Detective Riley, I hope that doesn't come to that, but if you put her daughter on the hot seat, she'll say, I love my mom. You know, I wouldn't do anything without my mom, but she's freaking nuts, crazy.
So that was drawn, I remember saying,
You told the detective that she's,
Mr. Cellini, would you quote what you just quoted to me?
or you told the detective would say that her mom is freaking nuts, crazy.
That's what I said.
Okay. No further questions.
Redirect, Mr. Allen?
There's some questions, Mr. Stauch, about the defendant being a good softball player. Do you remember those?
Yes, sir.
Does softball have rules?
Absolutely.
Does she know how to play the game?
Very well.
Does she know how to use specific techniques and strategies in playing softball?
I would say her being a coach at the high school softball level would indicate all of those things are yes.
You jumped to my next question.
Yeah.
Did she also go through efforts to teach other people how to play follow the rules of softball?
Yes, sir.
Is that an indication that she knew the difference between right and wrong?
Yes, sir.
You were asked at the very beginning too about when you got custody of your kiddos, Gannon and Lena, that it was a safer environment with the defendant than with Landon. Do you remember those questions?
Yes, sir.
Would you have thought that if the defendant had severe mental, did she have a severe mental health disease or defect back then?
No, sir.
You were asked in different points of the cross-examination about your interviews with Detective Riley. And I want to be a little bit more of a timeline here. Do you remember having an interview with Detective Riley and other people at Starbucks, and that being your first contact with law enforcement in this case in person?
Yes, sir.
And then you went to the El Paso County Sheriff's Office to deliver, I think you said,
Being a toothbrush and maybe, I don't remember specifically, but some sort of article of clothing, a shoe or something that would have his, it wasn't spoken to me that way, but I assumed it was for DNA purposes.
and then I think you said that you had an interview at the end of that when you dropped the stuff off the interview.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you remember what day that was?
That would have been Tuesday, January 28th.
The Starbucks thing, when did that occur? Was that also Tuesday, January?
Tuesday, earlier in the day.
Okay. And then you had a third interview in person at the sheriff's office when you came back. What day was that?
Tuesday, January 28th, 2020.
You were asked about, specifically shown a specific page of the interview, the first one at Starbucks, where Mr. Tellini was asking you about when you got Gannon into counseling.
Yes.
And there was some disagreement between you and Mr. Tellini about when that counseling may have started or when you said that the counseling had started. Who is Dr. Burtek?
She was I don't know specifically, but she was some sort of family health counselor that Gannon got assigned to at Fort Carson.
So could you have signed Gannon up for counseling at Fort Carson before you got to Colorado?
No, sir.
So did that occur after you got to Colorado?
Yes, sir.
Which was in when?
I got here February 15th or thereabouts, 2019.
When you were having that first, did you have a lot on your mind?
Absolutely.
The information that you had on your mind as it relates to Gannon being missing, where were you getting that information from that initial period of time?
Everything was coming from the defendant.
At that time, did you have any reason to necessarily disbelieve her that Gannon had left and not come home?
No, sir, not at that time.
And did the defendant,
Yes, sir.
did that change over time because of the you asked about you having conversations with your mother about and Mr. Tellini said that your mother told you that she had concerns about the defendant's mental health.
That's what Mr. Tellini said, yes.
You remember that?
I don't remember her diagnosing the defendant based on hearsay. I remember having conversations about, the defendant's anxiety and how that affects our relationship, yes.
In your mind, did the defendant have anxiety?
I'm not a medical professional, but I would say she had some form of it. She had, some anxiety here and there about different things.
Even if she had that anxiety in your lay opinion, was she able to function?
Absolutely.
Could she make a meal?
Absolutely.
Could she make a Denver omelet if she wanted to?
Maybe get some Chick-fil-A sandwiches, but yeah.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Could she scramble eggs?
She could, yes.
Put some cheese on the eggs
Yes, sir.
without burning herself?
Yes, sir.
What about cut up vegetables?
Yes, sir.
Could she do that without cutting herself?
Yes, sir.
Did she ever run out in the street yelling, screaming naked?
Not that I remember, no, sir.
You were asked about the rental car and about that being odd. Do you remember that in the cross-examination?
Yes, sir.
Did that appear to you in your mind to be a way of manipulating what was happening with the investigation?
That's hard for me to say. Once again, as you said already, that was a time period when I was just way down with worry. Had to get a rental car, which was something the defendant had said repeatedly over time. So looking back, I can make an assessment, but in the moment, it was just a ridiculous thing that I just blew past. I was more worried about getting out there and doing what we could to find Gannon.
Well, if in your mind, if your kid is missing, are you worried about the miles you're putting on your car?
And I believe I've said that already. No, there's nothing more important than finding that little boy.
And so the fact that her car was hidden somewhere, was that when you put two and two together, was that a form in your mind of her manipulating the investigation?
Absolutely. That's why I freaked out and went back down to do another interview with the sheriff's office.
You were asked about the, again, going back to the Starbucks interview with Mark Riley, the first one on January 28th, about you expressing some concerns about Landon's ex-husband, Mike Hyatt. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
And talking about the trouble that he had in his background.
Yes, sir.
Again, at that time, were you operating on limited?
Sir.
Were you racking your brain trying to figure out what might have happened with Gannon?
Yes, sir. I was just going through every possible, any variable, anything possible that would have led us closer to him.
Would you characterize that as you were going through every known variable in your mind and then trying to cross them off to to see whether there was any connection to Gannon being missing?
Yeah, in conjunction with variables and information I was.
You did 3 interviews on January 28th,
Yes, sir.
1 at Starbucks and then 2 at the sheriff's office later that day.
Yes, sir.
Did it say that the defendant was resisting going to the sheriff's office and giving an interview?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Once again, if the feelings are true and honest about we need to work together and find Gannon, as the defendant said repeatedly, what is there to hide from? Why would you not go down there? What is keeping you, the defendant, from coming down there?
Okay. And did that appear in your mind to be a conscious decision the defendant was making to resist going to the sheriff's office and give an interview?
Absolutely.
You talked about getting text messages and phone calls during this time that these recorded phone calls were happening.
Yes, sir.
Did the defendant change I guess the source of those phone calls over time? And let me be more clear. You obviously gave us earlier her specific phone number that you knew you had with her at AT&T.
Yes, sir.
Did you start getting phone calls and texts from her that weren't from necessarily AT&T, the account that you knew about?
Yes, sir. I got phone calls and text messages from multiple different phone numbers, and emails started coming from her email, which to me indicated. I also got messages from her iCloud, is what I'm trying to say. So, which indicated to me she no longer had her normal phone and she was using some alternate method of communication, if that makes sense.
It does. And so again, did that indicate to you more conscious decision making that she was still able to communicate with you, even though her phone might have been seized by law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
Able to navigate that sort of framework of figuring out other ways to text you or call you?
Yes, sir.
You were asked about these phone calls that we've heard and the stories that the defendant was giving you, and the way Mr. Tellini characterized them was that there was no consistency in the stories. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Were there in fact actually consistencies with her stories and what was happening with the investigation?
Yes, sir. For instance, once the search shifted to, say, northern El Paso, Douglas County area on that county line road area that the defendant indicated in the phone calls, I felt like she had to place herself there somehow, and that's what she did in that phone call.
Are you suggesting in your mind that that was a way for her to explain away why her GPS would show her there?
Yes, sir.
Sustained. Jury will decide.
She also gave you a description of blood being in the garage and in Gannon's room.
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that there was blood found in the garage and in his bedroom?
Yes, sir.
And then as it relates to that El Paso County, Douglas County lines up north, were you aware that there was a board with Gannon's blood and DNA found on it up in that area?
I was made aware of that. Yes, sir.
You got into some questions about your relationship with the defendant, and you were specifically asked about a statement you made about the relationship between the two of you was like riding a roller coaster. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Why was it like riding a roller coaster?
I think that's the normal ebb and flow of many relationships. I don't think that's uncommon. We had our ups and downs in our relationship. That's what that indicated.
Well, let me ask you more specifically, based on your belief that she would manipulate you sometimes, did that add to the effect of riding a roller coaster
Yeah, that would have been the extreme lows in our relationship. Yes, sir.
when she would manipulate you?
Yes, sir.
Was it common for her to manipulate
Yes, sir.
you? You were asked about sometimes she would be great and sometimes not. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
When the sometimes not period of time, what was that a result of?
Oftentimes a result of that manipulation that we just discussed, or lies or mistruths the defendant would tell that I would have to sort through, as you heard me do in these phone calls, that I have to sort through these lies and get to the truth.
Was it ever those lows, the sometimes not part, were those ever a result of her suffering from a severe mental illness or disease?
No, sir.
Ever?
No, sir.
You were asked about the defendant referring to herself as Taylor. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury about that. What does that mean?
So I believe when I met the defendant, her Facebook profile said Tisha Taylor Harden. And of course, I had questions about that because her middle name is Lynn, I believe, the defendant's middle name. The defendant would always say, I always wanted my middle name to be Taylor. I don't like the name Lynn. And that's where I left it at that. So anytime Taylor ever came up, I just, in my mind, referred back to that's what she preferred her name to be.
Well, did she ever use the name Taylor and start acting crazy?
No, sir.
Did she ever use the name Taylor and start talking in other languages?
No, sir.
Did she ever use the name Taylor and start having other personalities?
No, sir.
Was Taylor ever associated with her having a severe mental illness or disease or defect?
No, sir.
You were asked about the defendant having difficulty.
Yes, sir.
So expand on that for the jury. What do you mean by that?
So for instance, when we I think in the tail end of our dating relationship and quit or slash resigned from that position, causing her to have to seek new employment.
Okay.
And and why that's significant, because I disagreed with the decision. It was what I, outside looking in, a great place of employment for her, and she seemed fine there.
Okay. And then you were asked about Dr. Niederhauser, right? Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Tellini told you that the defendant was being seen for anxiety. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Did you know whether she was being seen for anxiety or not?
I did not. Once again, I only accompanied her as far as the waiting room that one visit, and then she went to the back, was seen, and then the defendant that is came out, and we went home.
To your knowledge, was the defendant ever seen for a severe mental disease or defect?
No, sir.
And then finally, do you remember the defendant in this investigation, whether she ever told you to not talk to the police?
She did.
How many times?
I don't remember how many times one stands out specifically.
Okay. And then did you try to call her during your second interview?
I believe I did. I'd have to hear or listen to it to confirm, but I think so.
And I'm talking at the sheriff's office.
So the first one at the sheriff's office?
Second interview at the sheriff's office. Second interview at the sheriff's office. So you're right, it would be the third, but only the second one at the sheriff's office, evening of January 28th.
Yes, sir. I believe I did try to call her. Yes, sir.
Were you able to get a hold of her?
No, sir.
You know why you were not able to get a hold of her?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. That's all I got.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Mr. Stauch? No? All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down. Prosecution, call your next witness, please.
Called Macon Ponder to the stand, Your Honor.
Mr. Ponder, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, sir.
Sorry.
Actually, yep, up here. Everybody does that. That's okay. Do you swear affirm the testimony about to give in this man will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand. The chair does not move. Everybody does that. Does not. All right. Mr. Young?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Ponder. How are you doing?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good. You and I never formally met. I'm Dave Young. I talked to you on the phone, I believe. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
And where do you currently reside?
Panama City, Florida, sir.
And did you just fly in from Florida?
Yes, sir. I flew in yesterday.
Did you pack a coat?
I did. I left, it was 80 degrees and got here and it was about 20. So
I was worried about that, so I'm glad you did that. Mr. Ponder, what's your occupation?
Sir, I'm a bridge inspector for the Florida Department of Transportation. I'm the senior underwater dive team leader.
And how long have you been a bridge inspector?
Roughly 12 years now.
And what do you do as a bridge inspector? I know the title's kind of self-explanatory, but Let the jury know what you do.
The short and skinny is basically we, every 2 years, our bridges are required to be inspected. We get a list of bridges each month and we break up into teams and go and inspect those bridges accordingly each month,
And how often would you inspect certain bridges?
every 2 years.
Okay. I'm going to take you back to March 17th of 2020. Were you in that role as a bridge inspector back then in Florida?
Yes, sir.
And did you have an opportunity to inspect a bridge by the name of Escambia Bridge?
Yes, sir.
And what's the name of the bridge? Did I get that right?
Yes, sir. Just Escambia River Bridge.
And can you describe this bridge for?
Yes, it's just a concrete bridge, rather long. Basically the environment out there is the river is close to what we would call the near end of it. And after you get over the river, the bridge actually continues on for a lot further, just due to the marshy area. There's marsh on both sides. It's really inaccessible to any vehicles.
And what city is this bridge close to? This bridge to the actual ocean, the Gulf of Mexico.
Is maybe 7 or 8 miles.
And I'm assuming, does the bridge go over the Escambia River?
Yes, sir.
And does the Mexico?
Eventually, the river actually dumps out into Escambia Bay, and then Escambia Bay goes out to the pass and then into the Gulf of Mexico.
And how often, was this another 2 years you would inspect this particular bridge every 2 years?
Yes, sir. Our department for the state of Florida, we inspect bridges every 2 years on interstate systems and any state roads. They have some different stipulations on our county bridges, but our office only handles state highways and the interstate.
So it would have been March of 2008 then when this bridge was inspected last. Is that fair?
It would have been inspected 2 years prior in the month of March.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be on the exact day.
And approximately how long is this entire bridge that you're inspecting?
I would say roughly 12 to 1,300 feet.
Okay. Is that the only part that covers the river, or does it, when you talk about this marsh area, does a bridge extend over a marsh area as well?
Yes, sir.
And so would that be miles or?
No, that whole area bridge on that, starting in that span, on that stretch of highway.
So what are you doing when you go out to this particular bridge to inspect it? What are you looking for?
Our job as bridge inspectors to find any kind of defects, any kind of issues that would harm the traveling public. We look for cracks in the deck, cracks in the underside of the deck. As a diver, we look at the piles underwater, look at any kind of cracks and spalls being any kind of missing concrete on those piles or columns. And if it was a steel structure, it'd be the same thing. You'd look for cracks and welds and stuff.
And so do you have someone, particularly on March 17th, 2020, with you as you're doing this inspection?
Yes, sir. We always go out as a team, primarily for safety, but also, we're always on the interstate or on busy roads. So we're always having somebody watch our back when we're taking the notes and watching out for traffic or operating a piece of equipment, if need be, while somebody else is taking notes.
And so do you inspect the surface area of the bridge as well as the side of the bridge and below the bridge? And you indicated you even get in the water and look at the pillars.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. We try to do the best we can to look at 100% of the bridge every inspection.
So could you please tell the jury about March 17, 2020? Did you locate something? Did you locate a suitcase underneath the bridge?
Yes, sir. During that inspection, the particular bridge that we were inspecting requires an underbridge inspection machine. The particular machine allows us to gain access to the underside of the bridge due to the height and over water. As we were inspecting the underside of the bridge and we're coming to the end of it, my partner and I that were in the basket noticed a suitcase towards the end of the bridge, close to, it's kind of laying in a marshy area and a little bit of woods right next to the edge of the bridge. And we just noticed it down there. It was a point of interest when we got down there. We didn't look at it then. We just made a note to come back to it later on.
And who was your partner? What was his name?
Matthew Goins.
And so when you first noticed this suitcase, where are you and Mr. Goins at?
When we first noticed it, to back up before getting into the piece of equipment, we on the deck and take soundings at each pier on both sides of the bridge, and that gives us any indication of any settlement or anything that might be failing on the bridge. And that requires dropping down a measuring tape essentially with a weight on it and measuring the height up to the edge of the bridge to the top of the barrier wall. And when we looked over, the suitcase was right next to the edge of a bent where we were taking the measurement. Had it been in the middle of a bent or in the middle of a span, we may have not even noticed it. But because of its location, it was right next to where we dropped our profile tape, is what we call it, to take the measurement. We immediately saw it as soon as we dropped it down.
And so I'm not a Navy guy. When you say deck, are you talking about the road area of the bridge where the vehicles go?
Yes, sir. That's what we call the deck. We take our measurements at the top of the barrier wall. Anybody that's driven over a bridge, the concrete walls on the outside is where we take our measurements from.
And so are you and Mr. Goins looking over the edge of the bridge and you see a suitcase directly down below?
Yes, sir.
What side of the bridge are you on, the eastbound lanes or the westbound lanes?
We're on the eastbound lane and we were on the east or the right side of the structure.
And so you note that there's a suitcase there, but then you go on with the inspection?
Yes, sir.
And tell us about that. Do you go all the way across the bridge and then work your way back, or how does that work?
Well, generally when we're taking a profile, we'll start at rear end, which for our reference is we work from west to east or south to north. In this case, we were working west to east. We started on the right side of the bridge heading east. When we finish that profile, then yes, we do turn back around and we work from east to west back to where we started. And that's when we get into the truck and start our under bridge inspection.
And when you start your under bridge inspection, is that when you get back to the area where the suitcase is?
It wasn't for, no, sir. It wasn't for probably roughly an hour and a half later, maybe even a little bit longer, because when we started the under inspection, we start back at the beginning of the bridge.
Okay.
And where we found the suitcase was almost at the very end of the bridge.
And this bridge goes east and west, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So you're starting the undercarriage portion on the east side, working your way west, is that right?
No, sir. We're starting on the the west end, working towards the east.
Okay. And so what happens when you get back to that area where the suitcase is?
Because of the profile and as the bridge, there's the hump in the bridge. When we got towards the end of the structure, the bridge starts to become lower, closer to the ground. And at that point, we didn't need the truck anymore. So we were able to lower the basket down to the ground line and get out, and was going to finish our inspection from there. And that's when we lowered down to the ground, we've remembered that we had seen the suitcase. We finished up our inspection and then went back to the suitcase.
And why did you go back to the suitcase?
Pure curiosity.
Okay. And again, is Mr. Goins with you at this point in time as well?
Yes, sir.
So what happens when you get back to the suitcase?
We got back to the suitcase, and where it was lying at kind of an odd angle, but the handle was towards the underside of the bridge. So I reached out for the handle and immediately noticed it was very, very heavy. And I looked back and remember telling Matt, I said, I don't know what's in this. I said, but it's heavy. I said, and where it was at, it had the possibility of being waterlogged. We didn't know whether it was clothing or something in it. We just noticed that whatever it was probably waterlogged and saturated, just due to how heavy it was.
And I imagine you get a lot of rain in Florida.
Yes, sir.
Do you get a lot of rain in the months of February and March?
We can. March normally is fairly rainy season, but again, where the suitcase was really right at the edge of the marsh, and depending on tide, you don't necessarily have to have a lot of rain for that area to be influenced by tide.
Okay. So you, Mr. Goins, get up to the suitcase. You said it appeared to be heavy. What happened after that?
Because of where it was at, it was very, very marshy and muddy. We, of course, didn't know what was in it, but underneath the bridge where it was at was very flat and sandy. And we kind of like pull it out of the mud and pull it underneath the bridge where it was flat and sandy, and whatever it was in it, we'll just open it there rather than in the muddy marsh, just sticks and a lot of sticks and stuff there. So we pulled it underneath the bridge.
And what did you open it?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about that.
I was the first one to unzip it. And before we opened it, as soon as we unzipped it, we immediately noticed the smell. That's what hit us first. I remember looking up at Matt, who's quite a bit taller than me. And I said, Matt, I think there's something dead in here. And unfortunately, we do come across sometimes somebody will throw out a litter of puppies or something in a bag, and that's not uncommon. And it smelled, but it was so strong. It was different that day. So I didn't initially open it, and we kind of thought about what we were going to do first. When we finally went ahead and unzipped the rest of it, the smell was so overpowering. We kind of took a step back. And the first thing I remember seeing was just 2 little feet, and that had little football socks on them. The best I remember, I remember there being little socks on them. And before I could, Matt dumped the suitcase over, and of course we initially immediately knew it was a body. After looking at it, it was we couldn't tell male or female, boy or girl. We didn't know. A lot of black hair. And then I turned away.
What was the size of the suitcase? Do you remember?
Roughly the size of a checked bag.
And was there anything else in the suitcase besides the body?
Lots of blankets. There may have been a pillow or something. I just remember a lot of bedding in there, and blankets. It was kind of the body was in a fetal position and partially wrapped up, so we couldn't tell a whole lot until we dumped it out. And again, I turned my head,
What did you do after that?
walked away. I immediately said we went ahead and called the inspection right there. I didn't have my cell phone with me. Matt did at the time. He's a volunteer firefighter, and he's dealt with some of this stuff, and I was very thankful to have him there. We immediately dialed 911 and got them on their way. And then I walked up back to the top of our truck operator and told him kind of what was going on, that they were shutting it down. And then just waited for authorities to get there.
Okay. And did members of the Santa Rosa sheriffs eventually show up?
Yes, sir.
And did they interview you and Mr. Goins and process that scene as it was theirs?
Yes, sir.
After we talked on the phone a few weeks ago, did you get an email from me of a Google Earth image of this bridge we've been talking about?
Yes, sir.
And did you yourself mark a red arrow on that Google image as to where the body was found? If I may approach the witness, Your Honor.
Me?
Mr. Pop- You could just take a moment to look at those photographs and then I'll ask you some questions about them. Okay, have you a chance to do that?
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize those photographs?
Absolutely.
I want to start with people, is People's Exhibit 60, one of the Google Earth images I sent be a bridge, river bridge, as you knew it back on March 17th, 2020.
Yes, sir.
Do all the photographs that I've given you, including the two ones that are that bridge as it looked like on March 17th, 2020?
Yes, sir.
You know, at this time, I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 60 through 69.
Defense? Exhibit 60 through 69 will be admitted. Go ahead.
We're going to publish People's Exhibit 60, which is going to be on that TV behind you and on this TV to my left. While we're doing that, I'm going to do a little. All right, let's look at People's Exhibit 60 here on the TV screen. Is that the Google Earth image we talked about earlier?
Yes, sir.
Could you just describe the bridge as we're looking at it on this television? up here. We're old school here. So we use these things.
Okay.
Can you just kind of point out the direction of the bridge? If we see the river in this image?
So this is the Escambia River here. Our inspection would start on the west end here and work towards the east. Each of these concrete piers you can see here is what we call vents. And that's where earlier, as I explained, taking the measurements from. So that's each of those that we stopped at is where we take our measurements from, working from the near end or the west, working towards the east end. Also, as I was saying that from the river forward, this area all here is marsh. It is over here really is also. Actually, it's just very inaccessible to, except for there's a little service road here. Doesn't really go anywhere, but there's even some boats and stuff still left out here from previous hurricanes that nobody can get to.
And so I'm assuming that's not a populated area,
No, sir.
maybe some wildlife.
Probably lots.
Okay. Are there any lights on this bridge?
I don't believe so. I don't remember. A lot of times the channel is lit. There is a fender system there that would have been lit in the evenings, but I can't remember if there's lights. I want to say there is. It's pretty dark out there, and I'm pretty sure there are light poles on there. Actually, now that I come to think of it, because as we use our machine, we have to come up and over each of those, which is kind of a pain. But yeah, actually, I do believe it is lit, sir.
Okay. And as you're driving across this whole area here, if it's at night, would you know whether or not water would be underneath the bridge or not?
If you were unfamiliar with the area, no. I would say somebody just driving across it that had never driven across it before and didn't know the area, you wouldn't think you were out of the water or over the water until you got back onto the pavement. Where this is a concrete bridge, and you can see where the concrete ends and the pavement begins. You're still actually elevated all the way up to the end of the bridge, elevated off the ground.
And now below that TV there, I put up People's Exhibit 61. Do you recognize that one?
Yes, sir.
And is that the exhibit that you emailed back to me with the red arrow on there?
Yes, sir.
And please tell the jury what we see in that exhibit using that pointer.
The arrow marks approximately where Matt and I found the suitcase that day. It's a little hard to see in that in the picture. But you can kind of see again where the vents are, the lines in the road, and this is one of the measurements right here. The suitcase was roughly just right over the bridge rail, right at the very edge of the marsh there.
And if we can go to People's Exhibit 62 at this time, or 63, I'm sorry. Okay, now we have People's Exhibit 63 up. I'm going to place People's Exhibit 62 on the easel.
Just a magnified image of the structure.
Is this a location that you emailed to me with the red arrow saying where you and Mr. Goins found the suitcase?
Yes, sir.
And I want to talk to you about this concrete area, the particular bridge.
Okay.
Is there an area, what I would refer to as a shoulder area to park your vehicle? Did you expand on that bridge?
Yeah. There
There we go.
This is going to be your shoulder. The hash marks here would depict where you would be able to pull off the side of the road. Just barely the center line here. This is a 2-lane bridge. And so there's almost room there for another lane, but that's just what we call a safety lane to be able to pull over and if you were having car troubles.
So plenty of room to park a vehicle there if you need to.
Yes, sir.
And where this arrow is, and I know you may not be precise, but is that the general area where you and Mr. Goins were taking your measurements when you first saw the suitcase looking over the side of the bridge?
Yes, sir.
It was directly below what you called, was it the barrier?
What we would call a bent, and that's basically just the space in between each span, where the columns would hold up. Each column is what we call a bent, and it just in between those two is what we call the span.
You can go to People's Exhibit 64 now. What do we see in People's Exhibit 64?
Yep. A picture appears to be looking on that is taken on the westbound bridge, and that is in the safety lane of the westbound, which would also be though on the far end of that structure. And that picture is looking west. Looking west, sir.
And so can you refer back to People's Exhibit 62 on the board here to your left, on the easel?
Yes, sir.
And just kind of point out which lane to travel we're looking at.
That picture's approximately probably a little higher. Each of these are the bents.
So could you have access to get underneath the eastbound lanes by pulling over in this area and walking under?
You would have access, but it'd be very difficult to access that area. There's also what we call slope protection or rock rubble. And a lot of times those rocks move easily, they slip, they shift. You could walk down there, but you'd have to be very careful.
So looking at this People's Exhibit 64, can you see the general area where the suitcase may have been from this photograph?
To the best of my knowledge, that's a little further past where we found it. The suitcase would have been further east.
No problem. Let's go to People's Exhibit 65, please. Now, what do we see in People's Exhibit 65?
Where the suitcase was found.
Now, is this where, the westbound lanes looking back towards?
Yes, sir.
We can go to People's Exhibit 66 now. What do we see in People's Exhibit 66?
Again, where the suitcase was opened.
And can you point out the general area of where you and Mr. Goins pulled the suitcase out of?
This measurement would have been taken. Able to why we noticed where it was at, because it was right over next to the edge of the.
And just so the record's clear, you said the measurements were taken where we see the pillars for the bridge.
Yes, sir.
So you would have been looking down directly off the edge of the bridge where those pillars are.
Yes, sir.
And the suitcase would have been located to the right of the pillars as you're looking down.
Yes, sir.
And the feet, again, estimate you guys pull that out of that marshy area to its right.
I would say roughly 10 feet.
Did you point out to members of the sheriff's department exactly where the suitcase was at when you first saw it?
Yes, sir.
And were they able to take photographs of that area as far as you know?
Yes, sir.
We can go to People's Exhibit 67. What do we see in People's Exhibit 67?
See the bedding and the open.
Could you point out the bedding? And was the body wrapped around this bedding?
Yes, sir.
And that's where you left it when you went to go call 911?
Yes, sir.
We go to People's Exhibit 68, please. What do we see in People's Exhibit 68?
Just on the edge of the marsh line.
Is this area consistent where the suitcase may have been when you and Mr. Goines pulled it out?
Yes, sir.
And go to 69. You recognize this?
Yes, sir.
And what is this?
Just again, right there where the suitcase was found. And you can see, and I don't know how long it had been there, but the bushes and stuff are pushed to the side.
Those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Ponder.
Mr. Cook?
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good, sir.
My name is Will Cook, and I represent the defendant in this case. I'm going to ask you some follow-up questions. When you were doing the bridge inspection, did you have any kind of machine, like a cherry picker? Or I don't know what you would call it, a cherry picker that would kind of reach under the bridge so you could do a visual examination of the underside of the bridge?
Yes, sir.
Were y'all using that device yet when you discovered the body, or were you doing the soundings and then going to come back and do work with equipment and the?
We were performing the soundings first, the profile,
Okay.
and then come back with the what we call a snooper or an underbridge inspection machine.
Okay. And the soundings, you're just going along, walking along the edge of the bridge and dropping a line and seeing what the length of it is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you would take that sounding measurement at each pier
Yes, sir.
of the bridge? Does some of the areas where it looks like the bridge is elevated, I guess by definition the bridge is elevated, but is that because the river will sometimes flood up and that will be actually, instead of land or ground, it'll be flood water underneath the bridge?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does that happen every year, or is that like 100-year flood, 50-year flood, something that happens every spring or summer, or just
It
depends on the weather?
depends on the weather, how much rain we've had. That area also, pictures are gone, but there's several boats in there. That area, it's a tendency to flood during, obviously during hurricanes, and also during tides. That area is all tidal.
Mhm.
So during high tides, it has a tendency for the water to be higher or lower at different times of the year.
Okay. Now, on Exhibit 60, that was on the board, it looked like on the other side of the river from where the body and the suitcase were found, it looks like there's a smaller river or tributary of the Escambia River.
Are you talking about the north side of the bridge, sir?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that looks like maybe it's a marina or a boat launch or something there? It doesn't have it on that one. May I approach the witness, Your
You
Honor?
may, sure.
Yeah, it's not very clear here, but it was very clear on the latch thing. Is there a marina or settlement or something like that there?
It is a marina, sir. I was unclear where you were talking about that.
I'm sorry. That's why a permanent marina where people keep their boats all the time.
Yes, sir. It's just a small tributary that runs back up. I don't believe it goes to the north just a little bit. There's a little marina on that side of the bridge as well. There's actually a marina on both sides, the north
Okay.
and south side of the bridge.
So just on the other side of the bridge from where the suitcase was filmed, there's settlement, there's, two marinas, there's stuff going on, presumably lights and civilization, for lack of a better word.
I'm sure the marina's lit up at night. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you had mentioned the suitcase was very heavy and seemed waterlogged. This date back in March of 2020, I think March 17th of 2020, you testified to. Had there been flooding under the bridge in the weeks preceding the discovery of the suitcase?
I'm not for sure, sir.
Not for sure. Okay. Just a second, Your Honor.
All right.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Redirect.
Oh, thanks, Your Honor.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Mr. Ponder? All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And I think at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take an afternoon break. So if I can have everyone back in the jury room and ready to go at, say, 3:10, we should be able to start on time at that point. All rise for the jury, please.
Was Exhibit 61.
One of the people in our office brought a flyer to my attention from Colorado. He had the same features such as dental features, height, weight seemed to be pretty close, but we didn't have anything confirmed at that time.
So you had a missing persons flyer? Is that what you're?
Yes, sir.
And was this in some sort of database or?
From the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
And at that time, did you know this was a child that was found in the suitcase?
Yes, we had a pretty good idea it was a child. We didn't know for certain, but it was pretty good indication.
And what was that based on?
Size.
And was there anything particular with this particular child that had you look at the missing persons database, and particularly the information you talked about from Colorado?
As far as features on.
Yes.
Okay. So the thing that stuck out to us was dental features.
Okay.
I had two large front teeth and a rather large gap between those two front teeth.
And did you make efforts to contact anyone in Colorado with regards to that?
The following day we did.
Okay, tell us about that.
We attended the autopsy on the following day. I took the flyer with me with the photo of Gannon on it. The autopsy personnel cleaned the body they took his clothes off, cleaned him up real good. It started becoming a little bit more noticeable that this might be this child.
And there's a series of photographs there in front of you. It's People's Exhibit 70 through 76. If you could take a moment and look at those for me. And we'll start with People's Exhibit 70. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, sir.
What is that photograph of?
It's a photo, I think it's taken from the ground to the top of the bridge.
And does that photograph show looking from the general area where the suitcase was discovered from the bridge workers up to where the bridge is,
Yes, sir.
overlooking the barrier?
Yes, sir.
All right. And does that actually depict that area as it looked back on March 17, 2020?
Yes, sir.
Move to admit People's Exhibit 70.
No objection. Exhibit 70 will be admitted. Go ahead.
This is the bedding that was located in the suitcase along with the body of Gannon.
And does that look, or does it actually depict what you saw out at the scene on March 17, 2020, when you got out to the scene and the body of Gannon Stauch was there next to the suitcase?
Yes, sir.
At People's Exhibit 71.
No objection. 71 will be admitted. Go ahead.
What is People's Exhibit 72?
This is the flyer that was brought to my attention.
Okay. And does that actually depict the flyer as you saw it back on March 17, 2020, when you were looking in the database or trying to discover who the body was at that point?
Yes, sir.
I move to admit People's Exhibit 72.
No objection. Exhibit 72 will be admitted.
Were you also present at autopsy on March 18, 2020, when the blankets and pillow were photographed from the suitcase that was recovered from the bridge?
Yes, sir.
And I'll start with People's Exhibit 73. What is People's Exhibit 73?
This is part of the bedding and the blanket that was found inside the suitcase.
74?
Another piece of bedding that was also located in the suitcase.
And 75?
This was the pillow that was located inside the suitcase.
76.
Another blanket that was located inside the suitcase.
And does People's Exhibit 73 through 76, so they actually depict those items as they looked on March 18, 2020 at autopsy?
Yes, sir.
Move to admit People's Exhibit 73 through 76.
No objection. Exhibits 73, 74, 75, and 76 will be admitted.
Okay, if we can start with People's Exhibit 70, request to publish. We see People's Exhibit 70 there? I'm going to place 61 back up on the ESO. In People's Exhibit 70, and red arrow we see on People's Exhibit 61, would this be looking directly up at the bridge from where the suitcase was discovered?
Yes, sir.
And is that the side of the bridge there?
Yes, sir.
Would it be consistent with a suitcase coming over the side of that bridge where the suitcase ended up?
Yes, sir.
We're going to go to People's Exhibit 72 now. I'm sorry, 71. What do we see in People's Exhibit 71?
The bedding and the body that was located inside the suitcase.
And is that the Gannon Stauch that you referred to earlier?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to talk about the clothes that he has on. Were those clothes retrieved at autopsy?
Yes, sir.
And are those, what are those? The pants? Let's start with.
They look like, kind of like jogging pants. It's like an athletic top and some socks with footballs on them.
And the jogging pants that you referred to, do they have a stripe that goes down the side of them?
Yes, sir.
And is this the bedding that you referred to that was also in the suitcase?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. If we can go to People's Exhibit 72, please. What do we see in People's Exhibit 72?
This is the flyer that was brought to my attention in an attempt to identify this body that we had.
And you made reference to dental observations.
Yes, sir.
Could you talk about that?
A noticeable gap in a rather large two front teeth. They're noted in these pictures with the body that we had under the bridge.
And you talked about contacting people in Colorado. Do you contact people with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, sir. It was the sheriff's office.
And did you, Florida on March 17?
Yes, sir. We explained to them kind of some body stuff like that. Thought this might be Gannon, and then we went from there.
And then is that when efforts were made to positively identify him?
Yes, sir.
We can go to People's Exhibit 73, please. What do we see in People's Exhibit 73?
That's one of the blankets that was located inside the suitcase.
And did you eventually make reference to these blankets and the pillow and things like that to the members of the Sheriff's Department in El Paso County?
Yes.
And was this evidence eventually transferred back to here, El Paso County?
Yes, sir, it was.
We can go to 74 now, please. What do we see in People's Exhibit 74?
Also another blanket that was located inside the suitcase.
Side of what we saw in People's Exhibit 74.
Sorry. Yes, you are correct. Yes, sir.
So it's one blanket, two sides.
Two
right?
sides, right, correct.
How about People's Exhibit 75?
This is the pillow that was found inside the suitcase.
And were you present when this pillow was x-rayed? Okay. What was located inside this pillow? Do you recall?
2 projectiles, 2 bullet fragments.
People's Exhibit 76. What do we see in People's Exhibit 76?
The other blanket that was found inside the suitcase.
And do you know how Gannon's body was transferred to the coroner's office?
It was through their medical personnel and their vehicles and their equipment.
And the bridge was the same Gannon Stauch that was an autopsy?
Yes, sir.
Those are my questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Cross-examination, Mr. Tellini.
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Kind of. Look at this. So Pensacola is kind of right on the border.
Self covers Scamia River Bridge.
And how bridge is that?
Estimate 3/4 of a mile.
Okay. And how, just estimate, how big is that, the Escambia River? How wide across?
Wide,
From one bank to the other?
200-300 yards, guesstimation.
And so there's there's dry area on each side, like bridge covers some dry area, then the river, dry area.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, just looking at that, is that the biggest bridge in Pensacola?
No, sir.
There's a lot of bigger bridges there,
Yes,
aren't
sir.
there? Like there's looks like there's bridge 98, Highway 98.
Yes, there's the one on Highway 98.
What does Highway 98 go over?
It's over the back.
How long of a bridge highway? Highway 98.
I wouldn't have any idea.
To throw something off the middle of that bridge, how deep would that be?
15 feet,
Okay.
15, 20 feet, guesstimate.
How deep is the river?
Probably 25, 30.
Okay. DNA was taken.
It was taken, yes, sir.
It was taken from Mr. Ponder and Mr. Goings.
I believe so. Swabs were taken from both those gentlemen. They wouldn't want.
Redirect.
I want to talk about this Escambia River Bridge. You're quite familiar with that bridge.
Yes, sir.
You travel that quite frequently.
Yes, sir.
Any lights on that bridge?
No, sir.
Pretty dark at night,
It is.
particularly where this suitcase was found to park a vehicle.
There, both of the lanes are 2 lanes on each way. There's also, in like an emergency pull-off lane on the side of the bridge, so flat tires or whatever. That's the only place that you could pull over without getting ran over on that bridge.
And these other bridges that council alluded to, are they heavily traffic bridges?
Yes, sir, they are.
I-10,
Yes, sir.
is that a spot where you could park and dump a suitcase at the bridge?
It has the same pullover lanes as the rest of them do, yes, sir.
But there might be more traffic on in the Escambia River Bridge?
Depends on time of year. The time of day, time of year.
What about 4 o'clock in the morning on February 4th, 2020?
Probably not a lot of traffic, I wouldn't guess.
Would there be any traffic on the Escambia River Bridge at that time?
Probably very minimal.
Those are my questions, Your Honor. Thanks.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Detective Yoder? No? All right. Thank you, Detective. You may step down.
Thank you.
This was found.
Yes, sir.
And eastbound or westbound lanes.
This lane here is eastbound.
And so the river we see there, would that be west of that location?
Yes, sir.
And is the city of Pensacola on the other side of that river on the west side?
Yes, sir.
And are you familiar with that Wood Suites Hotel that's in Pensacola?
I know about where it's at. I'm not sure exactly where it's at.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 221. And ask if you recognize it. Let's hold it.
Yes, sir.
What is it?
It's a layover map, the river, Highway 90. I believe that's scenic highway that runs down with the hotel there ordered out.
Is that the Candlewood Suites Hotel that I alluded to?
Yes, sir.
And does it also have a red dot as to where the suitcase was located?
Yes, sir.
And does it accurately depict that area as it looked back in March of 2020?
Yes, sir.
Move to admit People's Exhibit 221.
221 will be admitted.
So a couple questions about it. And there's a pointer just behind. Could you go ahead and point out where the bridge is and the indicator where the suitcase was found? And the general area of the city of Pensacola?
Starts really after the bridge. That's all. Principal city limit. 90, and off of Scenic Highway, I believe that's what that is. Take you right to it.
Camera.
young boy that was found after we left. What did you do? After we left, we went back to our office, started doing a regional search for missing children.
We didn't know for certain, but it was pretty good indication.
And what was that based on?
Clothing, size.
And was there anything particular with this particular child that had you look at the missing persons database, and particularly the information you talked about from Colorado?
As far as features on,
Yes.
okay, so the thing that stuck out to us was dental features mostly. I
Okay.
had two large front teeth and a rather large gap between those two front teeth.
And did you make efforts to contact anyone in Colorado with regards to that?
The following day we did.
Tell us about that.
We attended the autopsy on the following day. The flyer with me with the photo of Gannon on it. The autopsy personnel cleaned the body. They took his clothes off, cleaned him up real good. It started becoming a little bit more noticeable that this might be this child.
And were you aware whether or not they eventually were able to positively identify this body as Gannon Stauch?
Yes, sir.
There's a series of photographs there in front of you. It's People's Exhibit 70 through 76. If you could take a moment and look at those for me. And we'll start with People's Exhibit 70. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, sir.
What is that photograph of?
It's a photo, I think it's taken from the ground to the top of the bridge.
And does that photograph show looking from the general area where the suitcase was discovered from the bridge workers up to where the bridge is,
Yes, sir.
overlooking the barrier?
Yes, sir.
All right. And does that actually depict that area as it looked back on March 17, 2020?
Yes, sir.
Move to admit People's Exhibit 70.
No objection. Admitted, go ahead.
What do we see in People's Exhibit 71?
This is the bedding that was located in the suitcase along with the body of Gannon.
And does that look, or does it actually depict what you saw out at the scene on March 17, 2020, when you got out to the scene and the body of Gannon Stauch was there next to the suitcase?
Yes, sir.
Move to admit People's Exhibit 71.
No objection. 71 will be admitted. Go ahead.
What is People's Exhibit 72?
This is the flyer that was brought to my attention.
Okay. And does that actually depict the flyer as you saw it back on March 17, 2020, when you were looking in the database or trying to discover who the body was at that point?
Yes, sir.
Move to admit People's Exhibit 72.
No objection. Exhibit 72 will be admitted.
Were you also present at autopsy on March 18, 2020, when the blankets and pillow were photographed from the suitcase that was recovered from the bridge?
Yes, sir.
And I'll start with People's Exhibit 73. What is People's Exhibit 73?
This is part of the bedding and the blanket that was found inside the suitcase.
74?
Another piece of bedding that was also located in the suitcase.
And 75?
The pillow that was located inside the suitcase.
And 76?
Another blanket that was located inside the suitcase.
And does People's Exhibit 73 through 76, so they actually depict those items as they looked on March 18, 2020 at autopsy?
Yes, sir.
Move to admit People's Exhibit 73 through 76.
No objection. Exhibit 73, 74, 75, and 76 will be admitted.
If we can start with People's Exhibit 70, request to publish. We see People's Exhibit 70 there?
Sorry.
I'm going to place 61 back up on the ESO. In People's Exhibit 70, and red arrow we see on People's Exhibit 61, would this be looking directly up at the bridge from where the suitcase was discovered?
Yes, sir.
And is that the barrier we're talking about that kind of protects the side of the bridge there?
Yes, sir.
From what we see here, would it be consistent with a suitcase coming over the side of that bridge where the suitcase ended up?
Yes, sir.
And go, we're going to go to People's Exhibit 72 now. I'm sorry, 71. What do we see in People's Exhibit?
Of the bedding and the body that was located inside the suitcase.
And is that the Gannon Stauch that you referred to earlier?
Yes, sir.
I want to talk about the clothes that he has on. Were those clothes retrieved at autopsy?
Yes, sir.
And are those, what are those? The pants? Let's start with.
Oh, they look like, kind of like jogging pants. It's like an athletic top and some socks with footballs on them.
And the jogging pants that you referred to, do they have a stripe that goes down the side of them?
Yes, sir.
And is this the bedding that you referred to that was also in the suitcase?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. If we can go to People's Exhibit 72, please. What do we see in People's Exhibit 72?
This is the flyer that was brought to my attention in an attempt to identify this body that we had.
And you made reference to dental observations.
Yes, sir.
Could you talk about that?
A noticeable gap in a rather large two front teeth. They're noted in these pictures, matched up with the body that we had under the bridge.
And you talked about contacting people in Colorado. Do you contact people with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, sir. It was the sheriff's office.
And did you let them know that you found a body out in Florida on March?
Yes, sir. We explained to them, kind of described what we found, like the blankets and the body, stuff like that. Thought this might be Gannon, and then we went from there.
And then is that when efforts were made to positively identify him?
Yes, sir.
We can go to People's Exhibit 73, please. What do we see in People's Exhibit 73?
This is one of the blankets that was located inside the suitcase.
And did you eventually make reference to these blankets and the pillow and things like that to the members of the Sheriff's Department in El Paso County?
Yes.
And was this evidence eventually transferred back to here, El Paso County?
Yes, sir, it was.
We go to 74 now, please. What do we see in People's Exhibit 74?
Also another blanket that was located inside the suitcase.
Would this be the other side of what we saw in People's Exhibit 74?
Sorry. Yes, you are correct. Yes, sir.
So it's one blanket, two sides.
Two
okay?
sides, right, correct.
How about People's Exhibit 75?
This is the pillow that was found inside the suitcase.
And were you present when this pillow was x-rayed?
Yes, sir, I was.
What was located inside this pillow? Do you recall?
2 projectiles, 2 bullet fragments.
People's Exhibit 76. What do we see in People's Exhibit 76?
The other blanket case.
And do you know how Gannon's body was transferred to the coroner's office?
It was through their medical personnel and their vehicles and their equipment.
But the Gannon Stauch
No, I think it'll be fine. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the photos, obviously, it's hard to get a good feel for
Right.
actual size.
No, and I understand that part,
Yeah.
so, okay. Okay. Is there anything else that we need to address before we bring the jury in? Prosecution?
No, you're right. That was-
Defense?
No, sir.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring them in.
No, she's. I don't understand this.
That's what I was just checking. Are you doing okay? Okay. All rise for the jury, please. That's okay. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. You may all be seated. Court will recall 20 CR 1358, People versus Letecia Stauch. Record should reflect the jury has returned to the courtroom. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to start our day the same way that we have every other day, and that is, has anything occurred since we were last together that causes any of you to believe you could not continue to serve as a fair and impartial juror? If so, please raise your hand. No response? All right. With that, prosecution, call next witness, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. We would call Kelly Smith.
All right. Ms. Smith, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, ma'am. Good morning. You swear or affirm the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
Good morning, ma'am. Will you please introduce yourself to our jury and spell your first and last name for the record?
Morning, I'm Kelly Smith, Kelysmith.
And there's a microphone there. Slide it closer to you and try to speak into it so that everybody can hear you.
Okay,
Ms. Smith, who are you employed by?
Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office.
What do you do for the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office?
I'm a crime scene technician,
And just because we don't have a Santa Rosa County here in Colorado, where is that?
Florida.
All right. What's the biggest city in that county?
Milton?
Milton? Okay. Is that very near to Pensacola?
Yes,
Okay. Pensacola is in what county?
Escambia County, Florida.
All right. And I think you said that you're a crime scene technician, is that right?
Yes, sir.
What education do you have that allows you to do that job?
I have several crime scene classes, water classes, suicidal classes that I've taken for the job, and then a 40-hour class that they gave me when I started.
The 40-hour class, is that the basic crime scene investigation class?
Yes,
Was that in 2019?
yes, sir.
Did you also take a crime scene processing class in 2020?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that you took a water class. Was that the aquatic abuse, death, and homicidal drowning investigations?
Yes,
Was that in 2021?
yes,
And then you said suicide investigations also? Is that right?
yes,
Okay.
sir.
Was that in 2022?
I believe so.
Let's see. What did you do before you became a crime scene technician for Santa Rosa County Sheriff?
I was still employed at the sheriff's office as a 911 dispatcher,
How long did you work as a dispatcher?
13 years.
What are the duties associated with being a crime scene technician for Santa Rosa County?
Documentation, photograph, collection of evidence, packaging of the evidence to turn it in. We do dusting of the fingerprints and take DNA samples.
Is it common for you to actually go out to potential crime scenes?
Yes, sir.
Do you sometimes collect evidence from crime scenes?
Yes, sir.
Do you also occasionally attend autopsies?
Yes, sir.
Will you typically collect evidence from those autopsies
Yes, sir, and photograph.
and photographs? I want to direct your attention specifically to March 17th of 2020. Were you working as a crime scene technician back then?
Yes, sir.
Did you get a specific call to respond to the Escambia River Bridge on the report of a suitcase with a body inside of it?
Yes, sir.
What's that approximate location where you were called to?
The county line between Santa Rosa and Escambia.
And we had previous testimony from other people that had also gone to that bridge. It's sort of, if you look at a regular map with north being on the top, it looks like the bridge runs north to south, but it actually, I think, has a east-west lineage. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And as far as where you responded to, was that on the west side of the bridge or the east side of the bridge?
East side of the bridge.
Is it typical for you when you go to a scene like that to get briefed by somebody that's familiar with the investigation up to that point?
Yes, sir.
Did you have that occur here?
Yes, sir.
Who briefed you?
I don't remember. I don't recall on that one. Who
Okay.
the first person I spoke to?
Was it by chance Detective Jason Yoder?
Yes.
What was the information that you received from Detective Yoder when you got that first briefing?
That they had located a suitcase with a body in it under the bridge.
Did you have observations of that area?
Yes, sir.
Really just basically what you saw. And then at some point here in just a moment, we're going to get into some photographs.
I noticed we had to park on the other bridge, so I was able to look underneath the east bridge, and I just seen what appeared to be a suitcase and a material beside it from a distance. It just looked like material.
Did you have a chance also to view the scene from above, meaning on that bridge span looking down?
Yes.
Did it appear that the location where there was an indentation, that was where the suitcase was dropped from that bridge down to the ground below?
Yes, sir.
What color was that suitcase?
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Looks like Restream is having issues again, like it did this earlier yesterday when I was streaming. So I'll end this and probably do the day 4 on a different streaming app. So I just want to tell you guys thank you for coming. Please push that like button and subscribe to my channel. More coverage coming for the Letecia Stauch murder case. Justice for Gannon, always in your hearts, always justice for Gannon. This woman is crazy and nuts. There's no words. She's out there. But I am going to do a whole full down on what I think about this case today, later on today. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys.